This is going to be a long video. Get snacks, get hydrated. This might be a multiple parter that you need to watch. And this, I don't know exactly the time frame. Thank you very much to the person who sent this to me. It's about the DSA, the Direct Selling or Direct Sellers Association. This is weird. So you might be watching anti-MLM content, and you see the participants whose behavior is so horrible, and you see predators who are actively scamming and recruiting people in, and then you see these CEOs that just, will shut down a company and they'll start another one. But then there's always another curtain. Like, you go behind the curtain, you're like, what is this about? So there's this massive, like, trade organization, I guess, if that's the way you call it, the DSA. This is in the US. Now, there's a world like DSA thing. We have like a puny little DIT version of it here in Canada, DSA Canada. But this DSA, it's like all these different companies belong to it. And I think these people are paid too, like people that are on the board or the president. And they have meetings and they talk about the industry. They are clueless. These people forge relationships with politicians. With university professors. They have these meetings and these Zoom calls where they all sit there and pontificate about the direction of the network marketing industry. They're so clueless. And it's weird. I guarantee for most people coming across this video, you've never seen anything like this. You probably didn't even know this existed. I didn't know. I knew the DSA existed, but I never knew that this kind of thing was going on. This is a blind reaction to this video. I have been told a little bit about it. I did skip through like a little bit just to kind of see. There was one part about halfway through the video where a certain person comes on and they're like, I cannot wait for you to react to this part. I just wanted to get a visual. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. I can tell. I don't know exactly what it's about. So let's just watch this and let's see what's going on here. Now, I think that the President Joe Mariano is featured in this. This video might be from 2021, and he's no longer the president of the DSA. He's retired, or he's going to retire. Anyway, all right, this is the video. Crucial conversation, combating negative media and detractors. That is the growing number of survivors of abuse, psychological, financial, emotional, spiritual abuse. Whistleblowers coming forward. They're going to combat the vast majority of women coming forward, pointing out that they've been defrauded. Can't wait for this.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started if we may. Hi, my name is Joe Mariano. I'm the president of the Direct Selling Association, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you to today's webinar to talk about some upcoming events and activities with regard to communications, press coverage, and other topics addressing the direct selling channel and our wonderful, wonderful business. I'm joined by a number of folks today who will contribute to the discussion. We had over 100 people registered for the meeting. We've got about 55 or so and still populating. But we'll go ahead and get started because I want to be efficient.
Imagine these winners of the human race logged on to watch this Zoom call. These people, I don't even think they're in, like they might be employed by multi-level marketing, but they're not. I don't believe any of them are actually selling like multi-level marketing products or recruiting people. This is a whole other level of the alternate timeline that we're in. This is so weird.
Efficient with everyone's time and talk about our activities. Well, first of all, I hope that everyone is well and staying healthy and that your businesses continue to prosper. All indications are from across the industry that despite some things that have been said about the channel, actually many companies, most companies, in fact, in the Direct Selling Association membership are doing quite well, did quite well last year and continue to do so. However, despite those successful efforts at enhancing our communities and helping our salespeople and our customers, the direct selling channel, particularly multi-level marketing companies, so-called, over the last year to 2 years, if not longer, have seemed to come under an additional amount of scrutiny and criticism from observers throughout the country and in the mass media. Ironically, this is done and happened and increased at the same time that our sales and activity were increasing as a result of the pandemic. And some of the coverage we've received has really cited that growth during the pandemic as some indication that perhaps something is wrong, rather than that something is good and helping the American economy.
Yeah, helping the American economy. Isn't that shocking? they're painting themselves as such whiny victims. I think this was done in 2021.
Of course, the Direct Selling Association and direct sellers always welcome a robust discussion of the channel, an exploration of how we're helping our communities, but also what things that we need to address, if any, to ensure we're doing that with the highest level of business ethics in the marketplace, part of DSA's mission. And
I wanted to say too, with multi-level marketing, they use the term direct selling channel. This is what you'll see, these people that are, really behind the curtain that you don't ever talk about. Like, you'll see Mon8 participants, they think the company is so amazing. Olive Tree people, it's so awesome. They don't see all this stuff going on in the background that's been going on for decades. So these people, they're like, oh, this is the direct selling channel. And we have come under such increased scrutiny, interestingly enough, just at the time when we were the most prosperous. It must be just people jealous of us. It must be people that are negative detractors that are probably just vibrating at a low frequency. We really applaud your efforts and all of the salespeople. Oh my God, it goes on and on. But he calls all multi-level marketing companies, they conflate direct selling with MLM, and they're there's two separate things. It used to be direct selling was an actual thing. It still exists, like barely though. But MLM is not direct selling. It's two separate things, but they've taken over the term. And so now it's like this direct selling association.
We, as I say, welcome that debate, that discussion among ourselves and with outside parties. Notwithstanding that, unfortunately, over the last year, as I mentioned, some of the coverage has not necessarily been fair, nor accurate, nor completely understanding of the channel. And in fact, some things as bizarre, I have to say, as linking direct selling to the QAnon conspiracy theory and the like, have seen some light of day in major publications. Additionally, however, there have been a bevy, a cadre of long-term industry skeptics and critics who have done their best to challenge the efficacy and value and ethics of the.
Oh, you can use as many words as you want, my guy. You're no longer the president of the DSA, and MLM is dying. I think this was from 2021. Look at how upset they are. Wow. So, the cumulative efforts of the anti-MLM movement, look at this. This is nuts.
Direct selling model universally. Their motivations are varied. Sometimes they've been involved with investments. Sometimes they are purport to be disgruntled salespeople, and
they purport to be abuse survivors. Let's just put it right out on the table. How many women are you going to talk to face, look them in the eye, and tell them that what they experienced didn't happen, that they're just disgruntled? Let's hear it. Let's go full transparency. This is yet just another reason why MLM is going to continue to crumble. It's just going to... This is so awesome. Wow. And, they're just talking amongst themselves. This cadre, if you will, this bevy all together that they've all they probably have to purchase. They have to sign up for this newsletter, and then they're all in there talking to each other. And there's just disgruntled people. Keep telling that to keep circulating that amongst yourselves. Keep talking amongst yourselves. As you lose your job, you have to retire, and MLM just dies. You'll probably all move on to another scam. That's just normal, but less and less people are going to be recruited into whatever scam, whatever MLM, whatever direct selling channel, whatever, the next name is going to be christened with these MLM scams. MLMs are going to die, and people are going to be, and more people are going to avoid them. People are boycotting MLMs altogether because more and more victims and survivors are coming out and speaking out. Never mind the fact that over 99% of people must lose in these ridiculous scams. MLM is fraud. Oh, these guys are, I wonder how upset they are now. This is 2025. If this was going on in 2021, oh my God, they must be chewing the inside of their lips so much it's just raw, and they've got like ridges, probably in a pyramidal structure going all the way up. And they run their tongue over it thinking like, oh man, what's going to happen with MLM? What company's going to go next?
Other cases there.
All those disgruntled women. Because the majority of participants in MLM schemes are women. But I mean, it targets anybody. There's a lot of men involved too, but I'm going for maximum impact with this video.
Attorneys representing clients who are interested in class action lawsuits against direct selling companies. But whatever their motivation, this cadre has existed. Again, over the last year or two, we have seen a number of these critics gain a bit more traction, being cited more and more frequently in the press.
Yeah, like Robert Fitzpatrick in his book Ponzi-nomics, about Bill Keep, who has organized that conference. This cadre. It's just a small little cadre. What about that guy, Eric Schiebler, who wrote Merchants of Deception? One of the whistleblowers of Amway. What about all the other whistleblowers coming forward now? There's just too many to count. They're proliferating across social media. It's unreal. They're coming out of every company.
We wanted to take the...
It's just a small cadre. This cabal of evil people revealing that this is a scam.
The opportunity today to talk about an upcoming event, which we believe will give the opportunity in some ways for these critics not only to come and get together once more, but in fact for that message to be repeated and perhaps resonate among some of the press and other communicators that are out there that have taken an interest in the direct selling channel. As I say, I'm joined by a number of folks today, most of whom are on the DSA staff and management team and who've been intimately involved in this and ongoing issues. We're also joined by our colleagues from SunWest Communications, our outside consulting firm, Creighton Webb, the principal and owner of the firm, and Ginger Greenberg, his associate, who's worked with us closely on this, and as I say, many other issues. So we'll be drawing upon Creighton's and Ginger's resources. We'll talk a little bit about what we expect to be coming down the road in the next few minutes, and in fact, the next few days and weeks, what the association and industry response might be, messaging.
I think this is about one of Bill Keep's conferences that he had. So last year I spoke at this one. So I think this is what it was about. But if this is occurring in 2021, I was still an MLM. I was gruntled. I wasn't disgruntled. I was a gruntled MLM participant. I was on my way to waking up though. So if this is it, this conference was going on at that time too. And I believe this is just putting them into a panic. Oh man, they're sweating bullets. Like, oh.
And other,
they're getting together. So if you imagine, they're trying to diminish the stature and the importance and the possible influence of people that are coming together, exposing multi-level marketing. And then you think of the DSA, who's got like Amway, Herbalife, Nu Skin. They've got these people, they have so much money and they are so threatened by that conference and disgruntled MLM participants. This is so awesome. I wonder, man, I'd love to be on the fly on the wall now at whatever Zoom call meeting they have now about combating the negativity. Oh my God. I bet they're just crying. They're in the corner just rocking and they hit themselves in the head.
Tools and resources for you all as individual companies and how you might be prepared for any kind of fallout that comes out of this kind of coverage, our next steps as an industry and association, and then also Q&A. If anyone has observations or questions, please use the Q&A function on your Zoom menu there, and we'll be happy to address those questions either during the course of our discussion or afterwards. But let's get right into it in terms of what we know and what we expect. Specifically, we know that a seminar...
He's like going to have a heart attack right now. He's like, specifically, we know that more and more people are coming forward and we can't get away with this anymore.
Has been scheduled for this Friday and Saturday, organized by a Mr. Keep, who is a former professor from the College of New Jersey, who has been...
Bill Keep. Did you know this was going on? This is so funny.
And as I say, a long time critic and skeptic of the direct selling model. In fact, I think he said pretty clearly in the past that there's really not any direct selling company that he thinks is legitimate or doing things correctly. He has pulled together under the auspices of...
How does that make you feel, Joe? Does it hurt your feelings? I have a form that you and your colleagues could fill out if you want. It's free. I actually just printed it off the internet. You could search for it yourself. It might make you feel a bit better.
The College of New Jersey, a webinar that takes place over those next 2 days. And
I should explain what this MLM conference, it's called MLM conference. It's against multi-level marketing. And like I said, in 2021, I was still in multi-level marketing. I was on my way to waking up. Last year, I flew to Washington. I spoke at this conference, and it's really good that there are a lot of people that have been speaking out against multi-level marketing. At more academics are counteracting the academics that are saying, oh no, these are completely legitimate business models. Why all the disgruntled people pointing out that this is fraud? This doesn't make any sense at all. So that's what he's referring to, is this conference. And you can Google it. It's MLM conference. I know the name irritates me so much. It's not pro MLM, it's against MLM, and yet it's called MLM conference, whatever. I don't want to get into that, but you can go back, you could go on this website, you can see the videos of the conferences that they've had over the years. Robert Fitzpatrick wasn't on last year. I believe he was on in 2021 or 2022, because I remember when I woke up and I started to look around, I came across this and I thought, oh, this is so awesome. And his presentation was really good. It's a good resource for you. So I'll link it below in the description. You can go check that out.
That includes government officials, industry skeptics, former government officials, and members of the press and others. Just before we got online here, I was informed that the press release suggests that they have some 700 participants online. This is an online meeting, not surprisingly.
I think that is supposed to be a dig, but I think he's sweating it. He's be sweating bullets now, knowing how massive the anti-MLM movement has spread globally. Oh, it's 700 participants online. Just look at your favorite anti-MLM content creator and the views they get per video. Oh, this has grown exponentially since 2021. Oh, no wonder they're shitting their pants.
And DSA will be monitoring that.
He had to loosen his shirt. He was like getting apocalyptic. How do you say that word? Apocalyptic. It is apocalyptic what's going to happen to the direct selling channel. Goodbye and good riddance.
Meeting and listening to it as well. So I've asked John Webb from the DSA staff to give us an overview of the program, the individuals involved, and what we might expect to hear as part of the meeting and the discussion coming up in the College of New Jersey. John?
So they're trying to figure out what the conference is going to be about, and they've sleuthed out who is going to be speaking at it, and they're just like trying to anticipate. This is so crazy. This is MLM. Wow.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of flavor, and of course, if you wish to, you can certainly go to the website and look at the schedule of events, the panels and the panelists, and get a better feel. But just to give you a little bit of an overview and flavor for it, there are over 30 panelists that will be involved in this 2-day webinar. There's 9 separate sessions if you count the keynote. And I'm going to mention some of the notable folks.
Look, I wonder if they did a meeting like this last year and they talked about me and Marco and Brandy Hadfield and Megan Zona Life and Kalika Kanitkar and all the other people who were the victims that presented at this.
And actually organizations that are going to be present and presenting at this conference. First of all, I guess most important from our perspective, from the federal government, we have FTC Commissioner Noah Phillips, which obviously is significant to have a commissioner present. I know that we've done some work there with him, and so we can talk about that a little bit later. Secondly, I think Andrew Stivers, who's a PhD economist for the Federal Trade Commission, and most also importantly, one of the 3 authors of the academic paper Alchemy of a Pyramid Scheme is presenting. There's also some notable former FTC folks involved. Andrew Smith, you may be familiar with him as he spoke at a DSA event not too long ago. Now he's former, but he was the director of the Bureau of Consumer Protections for the Federal Trade Commission. I was in private practice. And also someone we're familiar with from, I guess, over 20 or 30 years, Peter Vandernet. He's a former FTC economist. I believe he was chief economist at one time for the Federal Trade Commission. But also included in this, from state government, there's representatives from the Illinois and Washington Attorney General's offices. There's a significant number of academics and or government officials from Italy, Ireland, Canada, and the Netherlands. and some significant.
It's only going to grow. There's going to be conferences all over the place now. It's all the scrutiny. It's not criticism. It's just people are fed up with this fraud. It's only going to grow. Wow.
People, commissioners from some of their equivalent bureaus.
And really, if you want to do something, one of the easiest things that you can do is just not give money to a multi-level marketing company. That's it. Just don't buy their products and just say no thanks and don't give anybody your time. That's one of the best, the most powerful thing that you can, one of the most powerful things you can do is just don't give them your time and don't give them your money. They don't get the money, things start to fall apart. It's really easy to be like, oh, I can't do anything. These companies are so big. These companies are terrified of any kind of scrutiny. Anybody that starts to critically think, this is blowing my mind, how they've had to make this. Like they're anticipating what was going to be said at this conference, I believe, again, in 2021. And they have to, and you can see they're really concerned. And you think when you're in one of these things, you think that you're so helpless. You feel like you're nothing. You feel like you have something wrong with you. And you will keep giving money, more and more money, because you think that if you personally develop enough, if you do enough training, if you do what you're told, you're going to reach the top. You're going to become the best version of yourself. You're going to impact millions. And then when you leave, you're often harassed, intimidated. Some people are sued, threatened to be sued. It's just the abuse that goes on the abuse that goes on afterwards, and everybody was like siloed, not realizing this is happening across MLM. And now you have social media, and you have all of the people who have been the cadre, the bevy, if you will, over the years, who didn't have the power of social media and who were exposing multi-level marketing. And on their efforts, now you have social media where you have us, this other wave of people, victims, survivors that are coming out. And we're like, I got nothing to fucking lose. I'm ready to expose all of this. Let's see your video and let's do a reaction to it. Let's give information, for people to go do their own research. Let's shine a bright light on exactly what you're up to. And let's show people that over 99% of people losing money and not one MLM company ever doing a training on simply tracking your income or expenses, and all using the same crap that has been going on in Amway since they morphed from Neutralite, as if this is business development, is an actual business, and then calling it the direct selling channel. Exposing this, now this whole effort, and this was just, I think of like, so it's almost like the advent of technology. You have the first computer. It's like this takes up the big wall. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you have a phone. They have the anti-MLM movement. You had these people that would just be taking the hits. Like I think of Robert Fitzpatrick. I think of David Brear. I think of Douglas Brooks, that lawyer. I think of, and there's other people too, I'm sure I'm missing, and I apologize. Well, Eric Schiebler speaking out against Amway, people who were sued, people who were harassed, people who had no recourse. They weren't believed because multi-level marketing, you can't talk to people as easily. It's just, well, it's not that big a deal. I don't really understand. It's one of those pyramid schemes, but you can't ever say it, And now you have, like with social media, and then people connecting with each other, just like how we are naturally like wanting to do, to share information, to actually help one another. And you have victims helping victims. Are you serious? I had the exact same experience in that multi-level marketing company. You have people that have been in multiple multi-level marketing companies, all have the same experience. We start connecting with each other. We start seeing other people's stories. We start exposing the predatory tactics. We start exposing the fraud. A lot of these MLMs that are just opened up, it's just criminals opening up more criminal organizations. It doesn't matter how many colorful words that you use to describe the people that are speaking out against you. Facts are facts. I can't wait for this whole MLM thing to crap out and die. This is fantastic. I wonder what their meetings are like now. I wonder who's going to step up and replace Joe Mariano. It'll be like another winning defender of the direct selling channel.
Of consumer protection. Also, from the media perspective, there's folks from the Huffington Post, the New York Times, and Forbes. So not insignificant.
And keep writing your attorney general. Write that letter. If you don't hear anything back, doesn't mean that it's not being read. If you're in Canada, write your member of parliament. This is awesome.
Significant media organizations, and then the general detractors that many of us are familiar with. I'll just mention some of the names. Douglas Brooks, who's an attorney, Robert Fitzpatrick, a longtime detractor of the industry, Laura Smith, who's a representative general counsel for Truth in Advertising, Stephen Barrett, who's with Quack Watch and Consumer Advocate. And then interestingly enough, there is a former Amway Emerald distributor named Eric Schreibler, I believe is his name. So that just gives you a little bit of flavor for the people that are presenting there.
If you haven't read Merchants of Deception, you can, it's online. It's kind of a weird way to get to it. I had to kind of follow a Reddit thread to try to get to the book, but he has it available for free to download. And my God, is it ever a good read. So it's called Merchants of Deception. I think you might come up, if you search for it, you might see people, it's like fucking Scientology's, these Amway reps. They're like, this is terrible. He's just a hater. Like, it is so gross, but you kind of can find, if you can find the copy of this book and download it, it's so good. Even though it took place back a number of years in Amway, you can see how it's the genesis of your multi-level marketing company. And even though so many years have passed, it's the same stuff that we experience: the cult, the indoctrination, the intimidation, the trying to talk to your upline or your upline's upline, or talk to the president of the company and to let them know what's going on, and only to come to the realization that they've known all along, this is how it is. You're painted as a demon, as a devil. It's the same stuff. And that was another really good resource when I left and I was deprogramming, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, how far back does this go? It's like, this is my experience. My experience is not unique.
And if you want to go a little bit further, if you look at some of the sessions, I won't go too much, I'll just mention a couple. One of them is what is multi-level marketing? How do MLMs recruit and retain participants? Product and earnings claims and the true numbers. Those are some of the panels.
If somebody out there if they did a video like this talking about the last conference, and they mentioned my name or anybody else's name, any of the victims of multi-level marketing who came forward and gave a presentation, if this is a long shot, but if they did a video, if they have that video, if you screen recorded that video, if you downloaded that video, I would love to get my hands on that and do a reaction to that as well. I would love to see exactly what these people have to say about people speaking out against abuse, how they're going to defend what is more akin to human trafficking, according to the definition in Canada, than a business. Multi-level marketing is human trafficking. Multi-level marketing is legalized fraud. Multi-level marketing is a pyramid scheme, or you can use the fancy term schema pyramid selling. And you have all these clucks just like defending it. This is so gross. And they're anticipating who's going to be speaking at it. The bravery that somebody like Robert Fitzpatrick, what he had to put up with over the years. Oh, I'm so glad for the work that he did and so many others did to help us exit and then add our voices to speaking out.
Some of these folks are participating.
People are leaving every day. That's what it's like a sieve. It's just, except the sieve it was a sieve. It was like fine mesh. And now it's just the holes are growing bigger and people are just freaking pouring through. Each time you have somebody that's at the top of one of these pyramid schemes, or somebody has a bit more influence, a bit more status, they leave and they speak out. Oh, it ripples. It's actually like a bomb that goes off, and it's like a shockwave, and it goes through all of multi-level marketing, because a lot of people, they're not just in one MLM. They fail. They lose money because they have to. They think there's something wrong with them. And then they get recruited into another one. They start a new multi-level marketing company, or they go into a more established MLM. But it's a small enough world where you start to recognize the same people. And you have respect for people. You have one of those people leave, and that kind of social credit that they have amongst people within multi-level marketing, you can't ignore it. You can't write them off as a hater. You can't write them off as disgruntled. You have people like this say that. But it's the damage is done because people are waking up. People want their freedom back. People don't want to be spoken down to, gaslit about the very real abuse that is well documented. Video, it's all over the internet for everybody to see. It's boasted about. It's used as a recruitment tool. And to be saying, well, it's just negative detractors. I got to get on with this video. I know this is going to be a long video.
I think that gives you a little bit of a feel for what's going to take place on Friday and Saturday.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Another important note after John reviewed all the participants, while we were made aware of this, not directly from the organizers several weeks ago now, we were never contacted, the Direct Selling Association was never contacted to participate by the organizers, nor to the best of our knowledge were any specific or individual companies or other representatives of the direct selling industry, what I'll call the legitimate direct selling industry, invited to participate.
How deluded can somebody be? Can you imagine this? Can you imagine we're having a conference speaking out against human trafficking, and you have people that are part of legalized human trafficking that are so surprised and frankly dismayed, if you will, a cadre, that they're not invited to present the very real and legitimate business opportunity. I mean, these are just disgruntled people that have been human trafficked. Why on earth would you have people speaking out against abuse and not invite people who defend abusers? I wonder why you're not invited. They're actually mystified. How far up your own ass do you have to be to actually say this with your whole chest? It's so weird because they're so offended that they haven't been invited. They want to be included. You know, if you're that desperate for community, I suggest you join one of your highly ethical multi-level marketing companies that probably faithfully pay their dues to the DSA every year. Join Amway. I hear they got a great brotherhood. Join Monate. Why not? Don't look for somebody that doesn't want you there. I mean, it's as simple as that. Why are you so desperate for attention?
Again, in context, that's not a total surprise in that our efforts in the past to reach out to Mr. Keep to have some kind of constructive dialogue with him, particularly, have been rebuffed by him.
Good for him. I wonder if he replied unread as well. That'd be awesome. My nose is so itchy. I think it means I'm going to be kissed.
Though, as John suggested, we have had conversations, and many of the people, in fact, presenting or otherwise discussing, particularly on the government side or former government side, have interacted with the association and all of you in formats that we've put on. Again, we welcome a robust and full constructive discussion with even folks who are critics or skeptics of the direct selling model.
Nobody wants to talk to you because you're irrelevant. You purvey fraud. You sanction abuse. You endorse, fuck, I was on a roll there. If I had to come up with a third one right away, it would have been great, but I didn't. It escaped me. Too bad. Fortunately, there's a cadre and a bevy, if you will, of people behind me that are much more articulate than I am. Nobody wants anything to do with MLM anymore. It's too much. It's not about the products. It's always about the business opportunity, a business opportunity that doesn't exist. If it was really about the products, it would be much easier to purchase the products. Participating in multi-level marketing makes it way more difficult to even purchase products, to find information about the products. People don't want to be handheld and infantilized about how to take a vitamin or to wash their hair or to buy insurance. They want to have minimal interaction with people. They want to get on with their day. They want to get it up, get it in, get it out. Don't mess my hairdo. They don't need to then also be offered an opportunity to spend increasing amounts of time on social media to spread the good word of their MLM, their direct selling channel, to then recruit somebody else into it to do the exact same thing they do. It's done. The run is over. The ship is sinking. MLM is dying. It's dead. Now it's just watching it, this empire like slowly collapse, you know. And we're out here helping people exit and heal, move on with their lives, let them know that they're not alone, learn about cults.
But when we're not given that opportunity,
then we're not given that opportunity. We play the world's smallest violin. They're here like whining with each other. These are grown men whining that they're not included with Bill Keef's conference. Good for him. It was rebuffed. Oh my God. They're so butthurt. Oh my God.
Obviously, the chances of that dialogue happening are that much less. Again, I want to put this in the context of not only this event.
You're irrelevant. Nobody wants to talk to you because your industry, which is an industry, it's fraud, it's dying, and it's good riddance.
But press coverage and how this event might translate to amplified press coverage that presumably could be negative given the tone and tenor of the speakers that John just described. Ginger, you and SunWest have been working with the DSA Communications Committee and DSA management team on a variety of press coverage of the industry over the last year. Why don't you review a little bit of that and how that might manifest itself in connection with this or after this upcoming event?
Sure, thanks, Joe. I like
Ginger coming in hot with the PR. Can you imagine? I don't know if you've ever seen their news releases. Who's reading it? It's just other people in multi-level marketing. It reminds me of that Scientology flavor. It's like the too happy, too narrow. This is really amazing. Everybody's pretending that they're businessy, and this is just so legitimate. It's so weird. Imagine their news release to counteract. It's like, who's going to read it? All 50 of you that are attending this call? Oh, wait, excuse me, 55.
to put it in two categories. There's coverage related to how the industry markets itself, and I call those the mommy friend stories, or how do you lose a friend in MLM, and then the stories that cover regulatory actions, like a TikTok ban or any other type of regulatory action or news type of action. So in particular, there have been stories in the Atlantic by a reporter, 2 stories. Her name's Caitlin Tiffany, that we've talked about pretty in depth. One was the link to QAnon, and then the second article,
wow, there's no link to QAnon in multi-level marketing at all. Like, fast forward, like I said, I think this is 2021. Fast forward now. Oh, there's totally a link to QAnon and MLM. It's a fucking pipeline. Oh, it's a pipeline of conspiracy theory. Oh my God. Look at any MLM. This is so awesome. So way to go to that journalist. Look at that. They talked about your work in depth. Ooh, you hit a nerve. Well done. I got to see more of these videos. I should sign up. This would be worth it to be a paying member just to see what they're up to.
we tend to think that trend's a little bit more positive toward the industry, and actually had a large focus on the anti-MLM groups and called out that they are in this for their own gain and do have a monetary gain and being really.
Is that right? Everybody that speaks out against abuse is in it for monetary gain. I'm so glad that we have this on the record. Ginger Greenberg, well done. Gaslighting victims of well-documented abuse. So you have people that would never speak out against abuse. Their only motivation is money. You know what that more sounds like? Are people involved in multi-level marketing pyramid schemes. The only way that we do anything when we're in an MLM is for the motivation of money. All of our social contacts are exploited. Everything is seen as a transaction. The only legitimate reason that anybody could speak out against fraud or a cult is if you're paid to do that. They're so divorced from reality. This is awesome. Keep telling yourself that. That's exactly it. Then what do they do when they come across somebody like me that doesn't make any money? I don't even monetize my content. I support everybody who makes money from their content. It's just so stupid. It's like, are you against the police? Well, the only reason the police go and they arrest the criminal is because they make money. No fucking shit. But look at this is how desperate they are. You know what's so weird is that this is replicated within this DSA, which is what you also find in every MLM. They have a script. They only have a set number of responses. Oh my God. I hope they say that MLMs aren't pyramid schemes, because pyramid schemes are illegal. Can you imagine? So the anti-MLM movement, according to the DSA, it's just people who are financially motivated to do so. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. You've totally hit it on the head. You got that right. Meanwhile, if you're somebody in MLM, you're starting to critically think and you're starting to look for resources, I suggest looking up Stephen Hassan's website, Freedom of Mind, and the BITE model. That's really helpful. Behavior, information, thought, emotional control. There's a checklist that you can download and use that to compare to, your experiences. I highlighted mine when I exited Rank Makers and Mon 8, and it was almost the whole sheet that was highlighted yellow. I was so creeped out by it. I thought, oh man, it helps to see that what you've been part of it's real. It's an actual thing. And it doesn't just happen in MLM commercial cults. It happens in other cults too. So it's so funny. It's like they're trying to soothe each other. It's okay. We weren't invited. We're not invited to this conference. And And we're really sad about that. It really hurts my feelings. And we're always willing to have a robust conversation with a cadre and a bevy of people, but we've really determined that the anti-MLM movement, it's just a bunch of people who want to make money. Now you think of it now, the fucking amount of people that are just in the comments, the tens of thousands of comments across TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, documenting their experience in MLMs. All of those people, you leaving a comment on this right now, talking about your, thank God you got out of MLM, you're also motivated by money. This is so good to see. Wow.
Productive and prolific on social media, with their websites, with their blogs. So that's the Atlantic coverage. Then there's Huffington Post, and Casey Bond, who is the reporter from the Huffington Post that is actually on the panel. She does the more, I would say, lifestyle type stories where you're calling out bad behavior on social media that some direct sellers do.
Some direct sellers do.
Asking people if they want to buy a product because it looks like they need to lose weight, being overly aggressive and selling styles. Those are the types of stories that Casey writes, more gossip, lifestyle type thing.
Gossip, lifestyle. What about well-documented, factual things? I mean, look at any anti-MLM content creator reacting to videos. It's gossip. How is it gossip when you show, like, is this gossip right now? I'm showing what you're saying, and I'm showing, I don't even have to add commentary to it. You're making a fool of yourself. Maybe that's what I should do. Just not say anything for the rest of this video and just to let it play out. But I know that there's some good stuff coming about 35 minutes into this. It might be hard for me not to say anything. Okay, let's see how far I can go without saying something.
And then the Forbes reporter that's on the panel, Lisette Voitko, she really covers more news-oriented stories and doesn't use the angles that Casey does. So Lisette has really covered the growth of the industry and looked at both sides of it. She's covered specific DSA members very in depth, and she also covered the TikTok ban story. The other reporter, let's see, I would say the Time story was pretty prolific, and those reporters are not on this panel. That was Eliana Doctorman and Abby Vasulis, and that covered a few DSA members in depth as well.
This has put them into a tailspin. Like, anti-MLM has put the DSA into a tailspin. Can you imagine what's going on now? And it's been a few years later, and now what's probably going on behind closed doors, and these Zoom meetings with these companies. Oh my goodness, this is so awesome.
As well as some other direct selling companies. But again, they're not on the panel, so I won't anticipate a lot more from Time, but those have been really the big headlines of the year. We looked at the end of 2019 and we had some coverage from the Washington Post that was pretty prolific, but in 2020, the story was really looking at the companies that received the FTC warning letters, TikTok ban, and then some of the aggressive, or so-called aggressive selling from direct selling companies.
It's so-called aggressive selling. It's just, it doesn't really exist. They just they're actually lying to themselves to soothe themselves. This is nuts.
On social media.
Oh, okay, we're going to reset the clock again. I'm going to try not saying anything now. Okay.
So that's really what the landscape looks like right now. And of course, we have the anti-MLM groups that are prolific on Facebook, I would say, and some on Twitter. MLM Police, Anti-MLM Coalition, just to name a few. And some of those organizers are set to speak on the panel, specifically Hannah Martin from the Talented Ladies Club. She's UK based, so sometimes has more of that bent, but right now she's looking really at anywhere and anyone and providing her commentary on the conference and on what's happening in the direct selling industry. And I would say she's definitely looking at promoting herself, and we've heard that from other.
Oh! Way to go, Hannah. Wait on, you got mentioned in this. She's just definitely looking to promote herself. Oh my God. You have rattled these people. Wow. This is so awesome. there's nothing to worry. There's nothing to see here. Everybody is just getting paid off, or they're vibrating at a low frequency. It's just really about self-promotion. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to try again. Okay.
Others as well. So.
Great. Thank you, Ginger.
Sure.
Given the nature of those participants from the press, from the traditional, if you will, anti-MLM types of groups, we can, I think, reasonably anticipate that whatever comes out of the meeting will be amplified in those vehicles and could very well result in additional media coverage and, of course, social media attention. John, just a quick question. Could you reiterate what the name of the program is for our participants?
Sure. The name of the conference is Multi-Level Marketing, the Consumer Protection Challenge.
Yeah. So I think, clearly we can anticipate that there will be media coverage, but additionally, media coverage then also results in policymaker attention to the issue. And no doubt that is one of the goals of the meeting, given the fact that policymakers are involved and in the past what Mr. Keep and others have attempted to do. DSA has been thoughtful in terms of our response to this and has undertaken a number of activities that I wanted to go through so everyone can get a sense of what we've done. And then, of course,
okay, can you imagine being part of a so-called industry, and one conference is going to go on, and instead of just going about your normal everyday business, you're so threatened. You have to have like this emergency Zoom call, and you have to disparage every single solitary person that is going to be criticizing and speaking out against it. All of them are interested, like for self-promotion. All of them are financially motivated. Everything is wrong. You can't just go about selling your business. You can't just go about selling the business opportunity or selling the products. No, they're this, like anything else. Can you imagine, like, if you're against like plastic bags and people are selling plastic bags, they just sell plastic bags to put your produce in. Have a conference for not selling plastic bags. Are they going to launch another like whole meeting of people and saying every single person that we're not invited to, every single person that's going to be a panelist on here, we're going to disparage them? This is so weak. I had no idea that they were this weak and that they were this threatened. This is such an eye-opener. This isn't a show of strength at all. Man, they're like running like rats from a ship. And this was a few years ago.
We'll be talking about what we will be doing as well. Part of our response will be dependent upon what happens and what is said.
Like, we need to have a response. Nobody cares. You're not invited. Nobody cares what you have to say because you're irrelevant. Can you imagine as more and more people exit MLM and they start speaking out? There's so many more people that have started YouTube channels. There's people have done interviews, podcasts, been interviewed by like more mainstream media. Oh, the word is spreading. It's just going to amplify. The power of one victim coming forward. It's a lot now. Your voice is not going to be squashed by these bullies, by these abusers, by this fraud any longer. You're not alone. There's more and more of us just shining a light on it. You can even just show a video of what you were trained on. Things are changing. This is so good to see.
Kinds of information that is out there. But we have convened a couple of different groups. We've done some outreach. We've talked to some of our committee chairs about the anticipated meeting and talked a little bit about strategy, and of course with our communications team here, and had made a decision not to undertake some preemptive kind of action when we don't know what's going to be said, although we can guess. And frankly, we don't want to draw any more attention to the meeting than is necessary to draw to it, but while taking the discussion quite seriously, obviously. We've convened our foundation academic fellows. I say convened because Gary Huggins, who's here as the executive director of the foundation, was made aware that Mr. Keep actually reached out to a number of our academic fellows, in fact, perhaps all of them, to invite them to participate in the seminar. Is that not correct, Gary?
Yeah, that's correct. He reached out to all 248 or so. We got several inquiries, and we let folks know that we weren't involved in the event. None of them, of course,
Did you cry afterwards? You put a little violin emoji. We're not invited to it. I can't believe you're invited to it. Look at it's like got the ray of light on his head. I wonder if he thought this was artistic. This is so stupid. So this is another organization. This is called the Direct Selling Education Foundation. Oh, there's groups upon groups of direct selling. This is like with the professors and the teachers. For example, the professor that worked at the University of Calgary's Haskayne School of Business that had his 4th years sell Cutco knives. I covered that on my channel. Oh, you can't make this shit up. He also happens to sit on the Vector marketing board, encouraging his students, you know, people think that you want to make some extra money for summer vacation just by having another job. But no. What they really want to see is if you're ranking up, if you're in a team environment. He's like describing being one of these weird offices selling Cutco knives. Oh man, you've got professors at universities that are trying to recruit students in.
Were invited to speak or participate in a meaningful way, but he specifically targeted that group as someone that he felt important to pull into that conversation.
Yeah.
Targeting them is offering them an invitation to speak, but your feelings are hurt because you weren't invited. Targeting. Wow. They're so weak. It just takes one victim to stand up. These things, these companies, all these organizations, they're not bulletproof. This is what they're built on. This is when they feel nobody's watching them. This is what they look like at their strongest. They are so weak. Look at this. I bet it's even worse now.
So everybody may not know, but when we say our fellows, these are our academic professionals, professors in various schools across the country. So I know, Gary, that a number of the folks who have been most intimately involved.
So there's people that are at different universities. You might be in one that you might Google their name after, be like, oh my God, they're affiliated with the DSEF, the Direct Selling Education Foundation. Oh yeah. They might be trying to recruit you into vector marketing or their students. Like, watch some of these people. It's weird. And they believe that this is totally legitimate. And they'll say the same things. Everybody's a hater, vibrating at a low frequency. It's just nuts.
A lot of research.
They're like your average Mon 800, except they're a professor.
Through the foundation or by virtue of their connections with the industry through the foundation, and have been quite attentive actually to what's being spoken. And in fact, since the
I wanted to mention this too. Everything they've said, it's like an ad hominem fallacy. They have to attack the person and not like the criticism. So people are pointing out, this is a pyramid scheme. There is abuse going on. It's well documented. And you're like, you're just about self-promotion. Again, just like bottom level of any pyramid scheme, some angry Primerica rep wagging their finger at you. And that's what they're doing. And they're not even in one. Like I don't believe they're in an MLM. They're just like, they're actually have the JOB. They're like, oh, this is this amazing industry. We are the DSA. And they say the same stuff. This is when you have that MLM, like mind virus. They all sound the same.
authors
And they're all like outraged they weren't included. They're the wallflower, hoping somebody asks them to dance.
of the paper, at least one of the authors of the Alchemy of the Pyramid Scheme paper, is going to be a presenter at the meeting. I know the academics, some of our fellows, have put together a paper in response to that, really trying to evaluate.
55 people read it. I've given up. I can't stop talking. They've written a paper in response. I'm sure it was riveting, and it was just filled with incredible details of how great the multi-level marketing direct selling channel is. Can you imagine? I got to read this too. I bet it's good. Is it kind of like the history of Shackley, where Forrest Shackley stumbled across a carnival, learned his mindset from the professor? Think and you do. Think and you be, or learned deception from the other nutritionist expert. You lift 500 pounds, but it's really a hollow ball. Is it written like that? Oh, please, I hope it is. That'll be for a good laugh too. Does it have words like bevy and cadre as well?
Evaluate that paper and put more factual information out there. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what we...
It's not going to be read by anyone. They're so worried about this. This is good. They should still just focus on this conference, and that everybody speaking out is just it's just about self-promotion. Keep looking over there. We got this on social media. Don't look at us. It's all about self-promotion. People are just going to see through all of it. They're just going to be like, yeah, you're right. This is totally legitimate. Over 99% of people losing money, which we all see in all our multi-level marketing companies, and we're helping each other exit. It's just all made up. We just got to listen to this dry presentation and realize that Ginger had it right on. I've just been completely misinformed. I should sign back up for another MLM.
know about how our academic fellows, if any, are going to participate and what their approach is going to be.
Sure thing, Joe. So there's two main groups. Our Academic Advisory Council is sort of the brain trust that advises us through our academic programs and approach.
The brain trust. There's a part of the brain missing where they don't realize that endless chain recruitment isn't a fraud. They think it's legitimate.
Just to research and content and the rest that we do with our university partners. That group was particularly interested in the invites they got and the fact that there was no sort of counter opinion to the type of folks that they were pulling together for the meeting.
Wow, it's like talking about fraud. You need to have people that are like, it's not a fraud because we're benefiting from the fraud. It's again like talking about human trafficking or abuse, and then you're going to defend abuse? They would too. They would love to get a platform in it. Can you imagine? It's like you're that desperate and pathetic that any kind of organization that is speaking out against the like direct selling multi-level marketing companies, that they're that butthurt. They're like, why didn't you invite us? This isn't okay. This isn't factual. There's not a counter opinion. You don't need a counter opinion to fraud. But this is the result of having gotten away, like with Amway allowed to exist and persist. This is where we're at now. Oh, this is glorious.
They have decided that as a group, they're going to make sure they cover and attend as much as possible, if not all of the event, and just sort of monitor for what's being.
What everybody's saying, and they're going to be shitting their pants when they're like, we can't control what people are saying about our amazing direct selling channel. And then maybe we'll have another meeting and we'll all cry over each other and pat each other on the back that we weren't invited. This is gross. This is like the dregs of humanity in this. Like how devoid of rational thought do you have to be to actually sit here and speak like this? This is just nuts.
Being said, what's being done. A second sort of group that overlaps a little bit is the task force that you alluded to that wrote the response.
Wonder how much money he gets paid.
Rebuttal to the Alchemy of a Pyramid Scheme paper. Those folks will keep a very close eye on what's happening in the conference in particular.
Just like Scientology, we got an eye on everybody. It's like, don't worry, we got an eye on them. What the fuck are you doing keeping an eye on people? This is creepy as hell. Are you that pressed? Is your supposed industry that threatened that you can't handle anybody saying anything about it and pointing out that it's a fraud? I know the answer to this. They're talking like this is a good thing. If you're ever in a group and you have somebody like, don't worry, we've got people watching and we have a task force, it's like, what in the Scientology are you talking about right now? Why are you allocating so much resources to being so reactive and so much emotional energy to be like focusing on what somebody is saying? Why can't you just get on with business? Because these things are also cults. This is so gross.
Andrew Stivers, as John mentioned earlier, will be speaking at the event. It'd be very interesting to this group to sort of hear what evolution, if any, there is in his approach that was taken in that Alchemy paper as a result of the rebuttal. And those groups together, as they think about these things, as the task force formed and did its work, will consider what, if any, response would be helpful, necessary, or likely to come from the academic side.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And
Thanks, Gary, for that nothing burger. Moving on.
Appreciate the independent reaction on the part of some of our fellows to this and their interest in it. I mean, we have always said and will continue to say that truth will out.
True intellectual giants of this century.
And of course, it may be our truth, and we understand that, which is why it's important to have
Joe speaking his truth right now.
credible, independent third parties who are familiar with the industry, who can speak to the industry with no agenda other than the truth and factual information.
There's only one truth, and that's that it's whatever the DSA and whatever your multi-level marketing company says. That's it. That's the other. Everything else, I can't hear you. You're a hater. You vibrate at a low frequency. I hope they talk about vibrating at a low frequency. Come on.
And that's what we look forward to in any kind of response or evaluation of what's said. To be honest, I don't anticipate that same kind of devotion on the part of the organizers to this meeting, although we are hopeful that at least some of the participants will be fair and open-minded, some of the participants. In that regard, with the association and our team have been involved in sort of preparing, communicating with a variety of people, finding out more information if at all possible. I've asked Adolfo Franco, our Executive Vice President, and Brian Bennett, our Vice President for Policy and Government Affairs, to speak to us a little.
Well, I have a great idea. You know what you can do is you can send out your minions to harass survivors of abuse and whistleblowers to get them to talk about how fair that they've been treated and to deny that there's anything wrong. That's a great idea. Why don't you do that? Why don't you continue to encourage all your member companies, multi-level marketing companies, to harass, intimidate, and threaten to sue all of their formerly gruntled participants? I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, you already have a task force formed to like scrutinize what everybody is saying and to disparage them, and that there's only one truth, and that's your very odd reality here. Oh my God, this is such a great video. This is such a great find.
Bit about the outreach that we've done to some of the presenters just to get their sense.
Can you imagine if this fucker reached out to me? I'd be like, is this a joke? Are you serious? I wish it had happened.
Of what's going to be said.
Hey, Julie, I'm just curious. Hey, Julie, I know we don't know each other. I see you're going to be speaking in Washington. I'm just curious. Do you keep your options open? If not, no big deal.
That and any further information, and let them know that we weren't invited to participate. And so that voice has been stifled, frankly.
Oh my God, can you imagine him? We haven't been invited. I'd have just deleted it anyway. Can you imagine? You're going to email somebody who is going to be presenting and you're going to be whining that you weren't invited to speak. Just hold your own conference. You go up on that day of the hill, Capitol Hill. You flourish with the big feathered pen and all of you sign the Declaration of Independence every year with all these other paid for politicians that think multi-level marketing is a legitimate business. What about that? Why are you so desperate for this small, inconsequential cadre, a bevy of people, if you will? Why are you so concerned over all these people who clearly are just doing it for self-promotion, who are so obviously financially motivated? Indeed, the whole world sees it, and it's such a joke that nobody pays any attention to them. Why are you so desperate to be included with so many people who are just in it for the big bucks? Seems to me that you wouldn't want to be invited or a part of that organization or affiliated with those people at all, since they're of such low character. That's what I think.
And also to talk about what might be any potential implications from a policy perspective that come out of this. Adolfo, you first. I know you engaged in some of that outreach.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. My name is Adolfo. I sent out 200 messages a day and I followed up with 40 people a day. I'm currently on my next Facebook Live video, and I'm hoping that the good fellows that we spoke out with are going to, oh my God, Adolfo, I can just tell this is going to be so boring. He has no decorations in his house. Look at this. You can just see, oh, he has no soul. Look at this guy. Adolfo, wake up.
The outreach that we decided upon initially to get some of the intel was to Andrew Smith.
To get some of the intel about an MLM conference. Speaking out against MLM, we had to get intel. Oh my God, this is so awesome. I need that Jason Bourne music. I should have done a live video to this. Oh, if anybody out there gets another video for me to react to this, the next one I do will be alive, because this needs to be alive.
Who John just referenced, the former head of the Consumer Protection Bureau. You've often heard of Lois Greisman, who's been a long-time staff person there. This is the person that
Lois Greisman just sent out, it was early 2024, sent out 2 letters, one to the DSA and one to the DSRC, smacking them down. Basically saying you can't even make any claims of like $25 a month, or I forget what the figure is, because she has yet to see a MLM opportunity where you can even earn that. So even saying you can earn any money is deceptive, something along those lines. You type in Lois Greisman, DSSRC letter and DSA letter, and they'll come up. You can take a look at that. If I remember, I'll put that in the description for you as well. But that was just last year she wrote those 2 letters. So this, I believe, again, is like 2021. This
is a staff person that worked under Andrew and works in that bureau. To put it in context, we reached out to Andrew and to get a little information about genesis of the meeting and his take on the meeting. That was what we wanted to learn.
Imagine, so you have like Bill Keep is making this conference, exposing multi-level marketing companies. And then you have these guys, you're like, oh, you're going to be presenting there. It's like, oh, hey, Andrew, how's the wife and kids? Oh, it's good, Adolfo. Have you hung up any pictures in your room yet? No, I'm still living a bleak, soulless life. I went crazy with the green paint in the background, but I'm back to normal. Well, I was just curious. What's the genesis of this meeting? I'm gathering intel for a powerful response from the DSA with these wholly inconsequential and people that have no credit at all, that we're completely not intimidated by, especially the survivors and the whistleblowers. And all those journalists, they just like to do gossip. But do you have any intel? We'd really like more information. And now he's going to present his findings. Oh my God. This is like the Secret Service arm of the DSA. Adolfo comes in.
The first is the meeting has been a long time in planning. So any excuse about not reaching out or an oversight, it's been Mr.
Oh my God. Talk about not taking no for an answer. Like, you haven't been invited. You need to get over it. Nobody wants you. No means no. I know this is hard for you to understand. Okay. But when somebody says no to you, it's a one answer. They don't need to keep giving you reasons why. They don't need to be explaining the genesis of why they're saying no. No is an answer on its own. And I know it's really hard for people in multi-level marketing, and especially the DSA apparently, to come to terms with, but nothing has changed all these years later. No means no. All you need to hear is hear it once. And usually most people that have their faculties together can understand when they're not wanted. To try to like force your way into something where you're not wanted is disgusting. It might be why you don't have very many friends. It could be something why you just don't understand how to pick up social cues. Can you imagine?
Smith.
You're so butthurt that they weren't invited to this conference. Oh my God, they're really upset about this. Oh my God, that's so good. I can't believe. If I knew I could get a reaction out of people in multi-level marketing by doing this, I would do it in a heartbeat. Just knowing that they're this upset just because they weren't invited, it makes me want to create a conference just to do the same thing. That's my personality type too. That's the Gen X in me, going like to an excessive, absurd amount of work just to make the one point that I might never even talk about, but just inside, I'll know. I did it. Me and Adolfo had that in common.
Was contacted in September or October of last year. When he was contacted by Mr. Keep. Mr. Smith worked many years ago before he was appointed by President Trump to that position In the FTC, he worked closely with Peter Vandernet. That was the connection. Peter Vandernet, by the way, and Mr. Keep have testified together and have worked for many years on a number of position papers. So they go way back, and Mr. Smith is connected to Mr. Vandernet. He agreed to speak at this, although he mentioned he might not be in the position.
You're such a nosy Parker, right? What the fuck is it your business? You're not invited, and so then you're reaching out to the presenters involved to like find out more information. Like, keep your hands in your pants, Adolfo. This is so gross. This is the DSA. This is multi-level marketing. Always intrusive, always poking. It's like they've got it. They're like, oh, I'm just poking you. Is it bugging you? Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Oh, it's so disgusting. I can just imagine how this conversation went with this guy, or like, he sees an email. I wonder if it was text, a conversation, or an email. I envision it as an email. And then the guy sits down. He's like, oh my God, here we go. Use the good political speak to be as like professional and as ambiguous and objective as possible. So when you get like just the right tone, it doesn't matter like how nuts the person is on the other side. They feel like they've been heard. And I think, and I'm hope, and that's what I think. What the response Adolfo got. That's what I think. We'll see.
There were not a second Trump administration, and the response by Mr. Keep was either way that his voice would be important, whether he'd be in the position or he'd have a successor, because the organizers wanted to do something early on in the administration.
If I got an email from any of these people or any other anti-MLM content creator now, it'd just be made content with. That's what it would be. Just like put it on blast. Look at how pressed they are. They're not invited, and they want to know why they weren't invited. So they're not getting an answer from the person organizing the event. They're going to ask all the presenters, weasel their way in. This is so gross. The desperation reeks like cheap perfume.
Either the second term or the first term of a Biden administration on what they refer to as MLM challenges. So he agreed to do that. My discussions with him was, well, we're learning about this just very recently. This has been the work for many months, and we're learning about it. His reaction was that he was surprised. He looked for DSA, or what he said, to be individuals that have advocated for the direct selling model.
You need to have advocates for fraud. And that's where Adolfo and the like and his cadre come in. Yeah. I'm so surprised that you haven't been invited. I wonder if he was like actually surprised. It's probably like the easiest way out. That's what I've done. I know when I get like awkward messages, I'm like, really? Oh. They just like slide out of frame. I don't know how to respond to this. So it's a legitimate response. And then I don't need to say anything else.
As we have, and he didn't see any representation, and he was surprised. And I had assured him that there were no invitations to, as Gary mentioned, to participate.
If you take a shot every time they complain about not being invited to this conference, you would be completely hammered by now.
And to speak at the meeting, we've never been contacted. He said he would raise that issue. It's late.
Adolfo, I have a question. Has anybody from the DSA been invited to speak at this conference? I might have missed something. I've come in a little bit late. I was hanging a one token picture in my green painted room. I felt it needed to spruce things up. Are you telling me there's not one person that's been invited to this conference? Can you repeat it 3 more times in the same sentence just so I can make sure I fully understand the gravity of the situation?
The game, we spoke a month out or 3 weeks out of it with Mr. Vandernet, and then in turn to raise it with Mr. Keep. He thought it was unfortunate that we would not be there. We talked about the setting being an academic institution.
Well, that's unfortunate. And then he hits send and he's like, fuck you, scammers. I hope I can daydream.
Exchange of ideas. Lastly, which has been touched upon by John, there is also an international audience that's going to be present. In fact, Mr. Smith will be speaking in an international panel with regulators, his former counterparts from Canada, Ireland, and Italy. He had a pre-prep call with those individuals, and he said he was surprised how little they knew about multi-level marketing. So he was curious to see what they would say at the panel, or if they were more in that sense reacting to his presentation, which goes to the broader point when we had the discussion. I had the discussion with Mr. Smith. Our concern is there are a combination of individuals at this conference, the detractors and followers of the industry we know, and then a large number of people, such as the international players and attorney general's representatives and others that are not as conversant with the industry. We raised that concern with Mr. Smith, and he said it was well.
We're really concerned that there's a conference that we haven't been invited to, and they're running things how they want at their conference. We feel this is a real problem, that we don't have any control over a conference that we're not a part of, that we're not invited with, and we're not organizing. We really need to control this, because it's just this conference that we're not organizing, that is not under our purview, that we're not invited to, that we're actively being excluded from, that it's being run in a way that we don't agree with. The outrage. I mean, they've got a point.
Noted, and something to keep in mind. I thought it would have been an important voice to have.
You can't make this shit up.
The Direct Selling Association or others to give that balance, as others might be misled to believe that there's just unanimity of opinion is being presented at the conference.
Thank you, Adolfo.
We don't agree with freedom of expression nor freedom of speech. It's very, very important that anybody, especially in the United States, that is on their own creating a conference and hosting it, they're not allowed to choose who to invite and who to exclude. It's not up to them to have the freedom to choose, or the freedom of expression, or the freedom of speech. They must ask permission from the DSA. That's what is supposed to happen, especially in the United States, according to the DSA.
Just a quick recap for some of those who got on late to the call.
Just a quick recap. We haven't been invited to this conference. Do you think that's the first thing he's going to say?
Discussing the press consequences and other consequences of an upcoming webinar put on by a Mr. Keep, a longtime critic of the industry, former professor at the College of New Jersey. This has been being done under the auspices of the College of New Jersey on Friday and Saturday of this week via Zoom, and is pulling together, as you suggested, a range of people who are critics and who are otherwise not familiar with direct selling, but no real advocates or folks with an understanding of.
No real advocates of it. Nobody that has been involved in it is an advocate if you say anything against it. So he hasn't said he hasn't been invited yet, though, but I'm sure it's coming.
Direct. Brian, I'm going to come to you and ask you to talk about a couple of things.
No, not yet.
The policy outreach that we've done and discussions that we've had related and not related to this meeting. But I also want you to talk a little bit, because we did communicate with our colleagues at the DSRC, the Direct Selling Self-Regulatory Council, because they were not invited either, nor made aware of this until we made them aware. And when we suggested that they might want to consider participating, or at least attempting to participate. So perhaps you can update us on where that is as far as we know, as well as the other matters that I mentioned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Joe. Just to back up a little bit, if you don't mind, I know people are asking for details of the seminar. We will be sending out a debrief of the seminar, a transcription, and a recording of the seminar.
I wonder if they still did that. I wonder. We're going to be sending out a debrief. We're on top of this, you all. We've got our task force included. We've got our spies infiltrating it. We've put our microphones up. We've tapped the computers, and we're going to be getting right back. This is absolutely crucial. This is incredible. We're on it. Oh my God, a debriefing of a conference that you weren't invited to. That's how much of a threat it is. Bill Keep really pissed off this lot. Oh, well done.
Our official DSA position, Joe, is we would encourage people not to participate. We don't want to elevate the numbers.
We don't want people to participate. We want to control your behavior. That's what we do. We are encouraging you. Don't participate. Don't encourage it. We don't encourage freedom of expression or freedom of speech, especially in the United States, especially that when it runs counter to our own opinion. Bad things happen when that goes on. We want to control the information. We want to control what people say, because detractors, well, they have absolutely no grounds for anything that they're pointing out that is wrong. They have no grounds to point out that it's fraud, because we're personally benefiting from it. I don't want to lose my job. Don't go. Whatever you do, don't attend this conference. Don't virtually attend the conference, even though it'll be published on the website afterwards in the years to come and anybody can watch it. So it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to send out a task force and ask their best friend if they attended it afterwards? It wouldn't surprise me. You're going to sick Adolfo on them, sending out an email. Oh my God.
Or elevate the attention, but just wanted to note that. I think that's an item we were going to discuss at the end, Joe, but just wanted to note that as well.
By the way,
DSRC
thank you. I'm sorry, as long as we're doing.
Joe Mariano, he's kind of like, I don't normally like to scam, but when I do, it's like that. You know that meme? He's like that meme of that guy. I can't manage to get it right. Here we go. I don't normally get invited to anything that is against multi-level marketing, but you know, when I'm not, I make sure I whine and bellyache about it for at least an hour on a Zoom call.
Doing that, and so everybody knows. I do ask that everybody, for this and all DSA webinars and seminars, not reproduce the seminars or otherwise publicize them without the specific written permission of the association.
Uh-oh. Looks like you're shit out of luck.
That's not just for today's, but for all of our webinars. We're putting out a lot of valuable content, but we want to make sure that it gets to the right audiences and those who are participating appropriately. So,
well, the good news is because it's so factual, and it just shows how, you know, out of integrity all these detractors are, and victims and survivors of abuse are, and that everybody is just motivated by what? Financial gain. People can easily just look, you know, ignore my commentary and be like, oh no, I can see exactly what he's saying. I'm actually doing you a favor. I'm actually doing the DSA a favor. Don't, for heaven's sakes, don't reproduce this and push this. We don't want the public to see this, because we're up to a lot of good here, and we don't want to surprise that all the good that we're up to by having it public.
thank you. But Brian, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks, Joe. That's important to note. Yes, the DSRC
Well, sucks to be you.
did reach out to Bill Keep, the organizer of the conference. There is a panel, as John indicated, on earnings claims and income claims, which their expertise, I think we can all agree, would be valued here. They did hear back from Mr. Keep fairly quickly and say that all the presenters were confirmed and the panel was, quote, full, but he would let Peter Marinello, the executive director of the DSRC, know if there was a cancellation or an opening.
It's called being let down gently, gentlemen. This might be, I mean, it could be legit, but you know, let's just give you the benefit of the doubt. It's kind of being like said no, but gently. It's like, don't call us, we'll call you if there's an opening, you know. But it's just, again, how many emails has he had to field from you lot just telling you no over and over again? And you're like, oh, the fortune is in the follow-up. That's why. Follow up until they die. That maybe they got rank makers training too.
There's not been a cancellation or an opening at this point. So right now that kind of remains the status quo, that the DSRC did do outreach to Mr. Keep, asked to participate on that one panel specifically, and was essentially denied his participation on that. Going to the other subjects that Joe discussed, I did outreach to Commissioner Noah Phillips of the FTC, who's giving a keynote at this conference. For many of you, you'll recall Commissioner.
This is like Scientology. What the fuck is the matter with you people? Can you imagine all these people that were presenting at this conference had to got outreach, contacted by what? How many members of this board? How many staff members are there? You got Adolfo, you got Joe, you got this guy. Oh, I did outreach. What does that mean? Did you freaking hire a private investigator and find out when they're home and accidentally bump into them when they're buying groceries? The fuck is the matter with you people? Oh my God. Somebody has said no to you, and now you're going to pester and harass all these people and call it outreach as to what? Has there been a cancellation yet? Oh, that's why. Oh my God. This is so gross.
Phillips gave a keynote at our conference in October, actually. So I had a good relationship with his staff. I reached out to his advisor, made her aware of the dynamic of the conference, that we were not invited. It was being put on mainly by industry detractors. I did let her know that I look forward to seeing his remarks at the conference. and they would prove instructive in our conversations going forward.
Your work is anybody that is writing your state attorney general, your senators, your state senators in Canada, your members of parliament. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's working. Keep filing reports with the FTC. It's easy to do. Canada's in Canada, the Competition Bureau and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, you can file reports with them as well. That's what I do when I make reports. It's lengthier with Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and Competition Bureau. I forget which one it is, but you can include like files, like you can upload like screenshots and the like. And that's what I do when I make reports. And then I usually do the FTC at the end because it's the easiest. You can just bang through a whole bunch of those reports. But it's worth it to take the time to even call your state attorney general. Just look at these numbers. And just let them know you're like, I want to file a report against this multi-level marketing pyramid scheme, and be respectful, be as succinct as you can, and it's worth it because they do pay attention, and they're paying more and more attention. It doesn't matter how much these people are running around in the background. We weren't invited. This is just horrible. This is just about detractors. Can you imagine people trying to shut down a global fraud? I mean, you're going to get resistance, but this resistance is futile. It's so flaccid. Like, it's such a joke. I can't believe it. When you've been in a cult, you've been in a multi-level marketing scam, and you know what it's like, the resistance that you have when you're just trying to leave, the internal resistance, and then like the people that are coming after you. Even if you don't speak out, even if you just don't want to do it, you can get harassed, and then you've got these people in the background. They're not even in an MLM. Like, they're just like, it's like this whole other system, the corruption. They're all having these jobs with this DSA, the DSEF. Oh my God. This is nuts.
Did also speak with the Washington Attorney General's office, not on the conference specifically, but we spoke with the Chief of Staff for the Washington Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, specifically related to the settlement in LuLaRoe that was announced by his office a couple of months ago. I think they were unaware, yet very receptive to the concept of the DSSRC, specifically mentioning
I've covered this DSSRC too. It's absolutely useless as well. It does nothing. It does like an annual like pie chart. It's just like, oh yeah, there was 4 people in whatever company that made a Facebook post, and we contacted the company, and then they removed it. It's if you can imagine, it's correct. MLM is fraud. So you have the DSA, which is a trade organization for fraud. And then you have, we have this other organization, the DSSRC, that regulates fraud. If you look up truthandadvertising.org, tina.org, they've done such a good job, extensive documentation of how many claims that the DSSRC just avoids, ignores, and rewards, members that, you've got this award for being the best company of the year, MLM. Whatever. DSA, they have their last research was last year, 2024, where they found it was 98% of all multi-level marketing companies are making misleading income claims, and 100% of them that are on the board of directors for the DSA, all of them make misleading income claims. That was just last year. Truthandadvertising.org is another awesome resource against multi-level marketing companies. Behind MLM, truthandadvertising.org, that's a good site. Truthandadvertising.org also has links to like contact, I believe, your state attorney general too. So it's really organized. You're like, I'm done. I've watched anti-MLM content. I have been affected. I've seen my friend or I've seen my family member get roped into this. They're spending thousands of dollars. I'm done. I want to complain. What can I do? The resources are easily out there is on truthandadvertising.org.
Referrals that the DSSRC has made to the FTC. And then he even opined that he would like
My God, he opined
to see those referrals. And if they were operating in Washington, they would look at taking action against those companies as well, and appreciated the conversation and the self-regulation of our industry. So that's the outreach.
He didn't. He just wants you to leave him alone. He's like, oh my God, it's the DSA again. Holy fuck. It's like poor Bobby picks up the phone. He's like, hey, like Janice is his secretary. Janice, you can put me through. Yeah. All right. Hi. Oh God. He probably like snafu'd his way in there too. He pretended he was somebody else. And it's like, oh, hi. Fuck, he's got to listen to this guy. Oh, you weren't invited to the conference again? Do you want me to rub your back and buy you a cookie? How old are you? Are you a grown man? Oh, okay.
That we've done there and touched the FTC and the AG's office on that, Joe.
Well, a quick question, a couple of questions for you, Brian. Is there any reason, based upon what we know, if we're able to speculate, that Commissioner Phillips' remarks will differ significantly from what he delivered at the October DSA conference you mentioned?
No, that's a really good question, Joe. From my personal perspective, I know we haven't discussed this. I don't think they will. I think he knows that the comments that he makes will be public, and I think if you look at even the comments that he gave at our conference in October, a lot of them were a repeat from what Andrew Smith said. Speaking of Andrew Smith, ironically enough, a year before at the same conference. So they
were able to get away with this when there wasn't more and more consumer awareness. This was going on in the dark. This was going on behind. There wasn't social media to like expose this going on. They're so used to having these connections and talking with each other, and just like having nobody overseeing this. Nobody saying, "The hell are you up to? This is messed up." You know. Now, you can't get away with this stuff anymore.
I personally anticipate not much would change from what he said to us. And I'll just add one point to that, Joe. I think from the FTC's perspective, since it is under the auspices of the College of New Jersey, I think their kind of view is that, we speak to both sides on every issue, which they'll say, and I'm sure they'll continue to say.
Back to a somewhat broader public policy consequence on this. Again, we expect this will result in press attention, which in turn will result in at least some contemplation of policy determinations vis-a-vis direct selling, and particularly in the congressional level. First question: any indication that there has been any congressional involvement or attention to this point?
No, I have not heard anything from Capitol Hill, nor am I aware of any.
No, we haven't, because we've bought them all. They're personally benefiting from it. It's easy. We just cut them a check and then they'll sign our ridiculous document that we go up every year and we have our day on the Hill. It's all good. Don't worry. We've got Congress covered. That's pretty much it. Canada is a different story, though. I think it's going to change, too, in the U.S. as well, as more and more people start contacting their elected officials or elected representatives, whatever.
Invitations that were extended to anybody on Capitol Hill.
And why don't you remind everybody of the direct selling caucus that is, I guess, in reformation yet again under the new Congress for our industry?
Sure. Yeah, there's a direct selling caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's over 40 members. It's a bipartisan caucus. Representative Richard Hudson from North Carolina is a Republican co-chair of that caucus. Worth noting a couple of things about Mr. Hudson. He is a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, which has jurisdiction over the FTC. He is also the Republican Conference Secretary, so he is actually the 8th ranking Republican in the House. The Democratic co-chair of the caucus, Joe, is Representative Mark Vesey from Texas, also a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee that has jurisdiction over the FTC.
Oh, so we've got two different people that have jurisdiction over the FTC, so much so that these fuckers think they can flex that in their small little group that nobody's supposed to be reacting to. Nobody should be seeing this publicly. No, but we're going to imply that, don't worry, the FTC isn't going to be cracking down on MLMs because we've got a direct selling. This is a pyramid scheme caucus dropping these names of two people that have jurisdictions. Oh, so what you're saying then is when somebody who has been defrauded by an MLM and they go to the FTC and they're wondering why nothing is getting done. Oh, it's because of you. Oh, I see how this goes now. This is why nothing is getting done, because there's a pyramid scheme caucus. Good to know that there's 40 of them, I guess, in 2021, I guess, if this is when it was. Can you imagine these stand-up people? They're actually fucking defending pyramid schemes. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what their speeches are like? Actually talking about how this is so good. They're going to be laughed at. They're not taken seriously. People aren't even going to be buying MLM products. You don't even need to argue anything anymore. It's like, you need to sit down. You're going to go on about how this is an incredible industry that employs so many women and builds entrepreneurial skills when everybody's losing money. because it's a fraud that's designed that way to work. And yet you're going to stand up and you're going to sound like an Amway participant, all excited about a business opportunity. Scams are always going to exist. People defending scams are always going to exist. People, not everybody has integrity. However, there's more and more people that are learning about these red flags, and they're exiting these scams, and they're healing, and they're speaking out, and they're helping others. They're helping consumers identify what is a scam. And MLM is the biggest fucking scam at all. When you just can't run a business. They need to be like, don't worry. We're not invited to this conference. So now we're going to send out our people and ask every single presenter, what is the genesis of this meeting? Do you know that we weren't invited? Oh no, I'm so shocked and surprised. And now, but don't worry, let's talk about our caucus. We're so strong. Let's brag about the 40 representatives that have our back. They've got jurisdiction over the FTC. Well, you know what? You don't have jurisdiction over the predominantly female sales force that aren't going to buy your fucking products anymore. Can say anything you want. Women stop buying, you're fucked. You can say whatever you want. And that's what's happening more and more. People are just refusing to purchase MLM products. It's not worth it.
And we'll talk about next steps and anticipated responses, which will involve our policy audiences a little bit later in this session. So a lot of information there already. Obviously, we view this seriously. Not that we don't welcome a discussion. Again, I want to reiterate, we always welcome a robust, intellectual, and fair discussion.
No, you don't. You want to control the narrative. You can't take no for an answer. You don't like to be excluded, and you certainly don't endorse freedom of expression or freedom of speech. It bothers you so much that you're unable to control somebody else speaking something that you don't agree with. It's weird for the US.
But when you're not given the opportunity to participate in that discussion, and the cadre of people who are participating have a history of, frankly, misrepresentation at least about the industry, then I think our expectations are gauged according to that standard. So let me see, I have a question here.
This sounds like the most recent Mon 8 Australia team huddle that I saw. CD Beauty Hunter just covered it when they're like, I saw the red flags from the start from this person, but I didn't say anything. I organized it. This is coming from a small group of people. These two people are just complaining about us, and they're just so pressed. They're having to soothe each other by diminishing what they perceive, which is a very real threat.
Some interesting aspects of this on the international side, which I'll get to in a little bit. That's where the question and observation stems. But let me go to sort of messaging for companies. One of the reasons we wanted to have this call is to prepare everybody for any kind of fallout that might occur. Now, it's quite possible that there will be no fallout, at least immediately, for companies or Salesforce. However, if there is attention at the press level, it's not infrequent for that to seep down to members of the field who might have questions, observations themselves. For all we know, in fact, some of those people that are registered for the meeting to participate could be distributors or salespeople who are monitoring this. So
well, why don't you send out your team to investigate them too, and just insert themselves into their lives and find out, did you know that we weren't invited? Hey, I see that you sell for olive tree people. Did you know that the DSA isn't it? Oh my God.
Sat down with our friends at SunWest, again, Creighton Webb and Ginger Greenberg, and work with them to develop some potential messaging that you all could use. I think actually, frankly, Ginger, you and I speaking a little bit earlier, not just in this context, but generally.
This is it.
Certainly, if there are field inquiries that come out of this, or if the company on its own volition wants to put out communications to the field, even absent some questions. And then, of course, with regard to any pressing.
This is going to be amazing. Like the PR that they're going to suggest that the multi-level marketing companies use to combat the disinformation from the detractors. Yes, I think that's what's coming.
Inquiries that might come about. And I think it's important to note, and I'd ask all of our panelists, we have no intelligence thus far, aside from the Amway distributor that you mentioned, John, that any one particular company is going to be the focus of discussion. Do we? Am I correct in that?
There's nothing.
Do we have any intelligence? What the fuck is the matter with you people? Like, this feels like I'm peeking into like a Scientology operative. This is disgusting. Oh, why is direct selling tanking? Oh, gee, I don't know. It's a real mystery to me. We don't have any intelligence? Oh my God.
Indicate that. I did mention the one former Amway Emerald that is presenting, but beyond that, there's no specific.
And good for him for speaking out. What he went through? Oh my God. Talking about blazing a trail for other people to like exit and know that they're not alone. And to just compare the stories where you're like, oh my God, this experience that I had in Mon 8 decades later is like the same. The core story is the same as Amway, you know? Oh, yeah.
Any particular company.
Yeah. So with regard to that messaging for companies that you might want to be armed with, and of course, this could be adjusted as we get past the meeting and see what exactly is said. But I asked Ginger and Creighton to sort of review that messaging for you all. For those of you who don't know, Creighton Webb, by the way, is not only now a principal for several years, an owner of SunWest Communications, but actually has a vast and varied background in communications and public relations, most significantly from our.
Oh my God, he's edifying him. You know, this guy's going to be a dud just from how much edification is going on here. Oh, I can't wait. I should pop some popcorn.
Perspective is many years at Mary Kay, running that role at Mary Kay. So welcome.
He's been with Mary Kay. This is going to be good.
Again, Creighton, for your insight. Talk.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And want to give Ginger the opportunity
yes.
to walk you all through some of the specific messaging that we recommend. As a preface to that, just backing up at kind of the 50,000-foot view and the media landscape.
Oh my God, this is going to be awesome. Oh, it's a preface in the 50,000-foot view. Let's go.
I think it's
the sailboat in the upper right-hand corner. Sail away, sail away, sail away.
It's no surprise to you all the pressures and the differences that we're seeing in media coverage. There's a couple of things going on. First, the news business, particularly on the print side, is not doing particularly well. And that means a couple of things. That means, one, the reporters that they still have are under tremendous pressure, not only to feed the daily beast of content for whether it's broadcast or print, certainly online, but also their social media channels. So you've got fewer reporters who are under a tremendous amount of stress and time crunch in order to produce more material, which inadvertently means they don't have as much time to do their due diligence or do their job. What it also means is that these traditional media outlets are depending on freelancers who may or may not have the same kind of journalism.
All of this goes out the window when you just stop purchasing multi-level marketing products. You don't even have to say anything. You don't even have to be a detractor. All you have to say is no thanks. And you cut off that lifeline, that's the fucking artery. That's the heartbeat right there. You just stop purchasing and it goes away. I mean, it's not that easy. It is that easy, and it's also not that easy because you need to help like educate people against scams, because these people involved in scams are always going to look to like defraud other people in some other kind of new form, right? But with multi-level marketing, it really can be that easy and just be like, no, what are they going to do? They're going to make a big call about like all these people who aren't buying products are haters. They're clearly motivated by self-promotion. That makes complete sense. Yep. All of the people that are saying no, they're clearly just wanting what? They're just wanting to say no. They don't want to buy multi-level marketing products, and this is why. This scuzzy scuzzball. Ugh. So that's an easy way to take action against multi-level marketing. Boycott it all. Doesn't matter how good the products are. If it was about the products, then sell the products, but they can't sell the products because it's not about the products. It's behind this wall of fucking recruitment and cult, and then all this. Not, I bet you didn't know this was going on in the background. Holy shit, your hair is probably blowing right back right now. So even something that you might not have ever even heard of or known, thinking like it really is kind of inconsequential. It's like such a small group of people, a cadre, if you will, that has gotten together to do this conference, and you have this massive behemoth that has like money coming into it out the wazoo from Amway, all these other companies. They've got 40 people in caucus, and they're this upset that they weren't invited to this inconsequential, angry little group of detractors with reporters that aren't doing their due diligence. They're not bothered at all.
Credentials. So I guess somebody who is a critic would say that there are journalists out there who are being lazy. If you're being kind.
And so anybody that says multi-level marketing is fraud, you're lazy. This is just on track with DSA. They're just putting themselves out of business. All they know how to do is fucking insult people. And they can't. This is the thing. You know, you're looking at anti-MLM content, and you're showing it's like, these are the statistics. Look at their income disclosure statement, showing evidence of abuse, fake medical claims, fake income claims, misleading income claims, documented by tina.org. And then you have these assholes where they're like, oh, they're just attacking people, attacking journalists, calling them lazy. Fucking douchebags. I can't wait for multi-level marketing to tank, you know. This is so gross. It's going to take all these loose ends with it too. They'll go land somewhere else. They'll probably get a job in like your local government bureaucracy. They're going to be so fucking hung up that you didn't, like your homeowners association. You're mowing the lawn. It's like 1.5 inches and yours is like one inch, and you get a fine because you didn't let it stay for 1.5 inches. He'll be that guy. That's what I think. Fuck. This is so brutal.
You would say they just simply have less time and it's more difficult to do their jobs. What's happening by the same token with critics, as Joe pointed out on the direct selling and the MLM channels, is that the critics over the last 10 years not only have had more attention, but are becoming more credible. Both credible because they're...
It's funny how that happens, isn't it? Especially when you have documentation and proof. And especially when a lot of people running these multi-level marketing companies, they just put it out there for the world to see. It's not like it's really hard that you got to like get some secret documents. You just have to point to it. It's really that easy.
Getting media and mainstream attention, but also because of their credentials. You've got
also because they were involved in their communities, and they might not have like a doctorate. They might not be have like a significant position, like a public stature in their community, but they were members of their community. Maybe they volunteered. They recruited people in their MLM, and they feel ashamed, and then they start to speak out against it, and it doesn't matter what their credentials were. You know what their credentials were? Is accountability and honesty. You don't need to have been in for years. You don't need to have all this information. You can just say, I was part of a fraud, because MLM is fraud. It's really that easy. And with social media, it's making it so much more easy, so much easier. It's actually, it's going against the like people like this, groups like this that are trying to squash freedom of speech and freedom of expression by painting everything. Detractors, all of them are evil. What's going to be interesting is when they just see people aren't purchasing and they're not purchasing products, and how they're going to respond to that. They can't call everybody a hater. I mean, they can, but it's just this ever shrinking world. Maybe their meetings now, they were at 55. There's probably like 12 of them there. And they're like, how's it going, Adolfo? It's going okay. I might paint my room yellow this year. Are you hanging up a picture yet? I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to gather intel. Fuck.
Organizations that are positioned, that look like, that are perceived to be non-government organizations, nonprofits, consumer watchdog organizations. And now, of course, we're actually talking about professors and universities. So you add those two together, the fact that reporters have less time, and you take the fact that the critics are more reputable or more present, and also you add in a third element, which is nowadays all you have to do is write a book, self-publish.
This is like a slag at Robert Fitzpatrick. Like write a book. No, actually, all you have to do is make a 15-second TikTok. Let's just insult everybody. Who cares? They're so fucking weak. They cannot even just like talk about, well, they can't because they're defending a fraud. This is, I mean, it's not a surprise. It's just so gross to see. He reminds me of somebody who thinks he's going to like make it really big on a news commentary channel. Like he's looking at there, he's like, oh fuck, I can totally envision myself. I have it on my vision board. Every day I'm going to be like, hi everyone. And today on this, like, that's what he gives that feel, you know? So weird.
Published or not, and you are a so-called expert, that makes you no.
Oh, he's so fucking pressed. He's so upset about Robert Fitzpatrick. I think that's who he's referring to. This is so funny. You can't talk about what's actually going on. You have to insult the person. Even this isn't a multi-level marketing company. This is the DSA. This is going on there too.
Quotable and quotable. So for the journalist that doesn't have much time.
Wow, that's why. That's why you don't have to worry about this conference, you guys, because it's just filled with people who are just a bunch of lying, lazy, so-called authors. Oh my God. It's almost like this big session where all these guys were rejected by a woman and they all got a bitch about her now, you know? Talk about how ugly she is. I didn't want her anyway.
It doesn't take them long to find a so-called expert who's a critic who's going to provide the other side. And there you go.
You can just pull up any income disclosure statement there, my guy. Oh, I bet they shit their pants when TikTok launched. They didn't realize. I don't know if they've realized. They must realize now, but as more and more people start speaking out.
There's the overarching formula for what we're seeing as it relates to the media coverage today. Now, as it relates to the impact of that criticism, let's put aside the very real concern on Capitol Hill. That is very, very legitimate. You know, how much noise like this does it take before lawmakers pay attention and then decide to—
Well, I know there was that when I was covering when I made that piece of content about children's images being used online, like by their parents, influencers, and then I was relating it to participants in multi-level marketing companies. And there was a story of a girl that I didn't mention this, but I forget the details, but she wrote to one of her state senators about this issue, and that got the ball rolling. One letter got him to introduce a bill. And so then I think like it started, oh fuck, was it Illinois and then Minnesota and then California? They're starting to roll out this legislation. So multi-level marketing, yes, it's something different because you're fighting against, it's fucking entrenched and it's massive. And you've got 40 people apparently in caucus. You've got a pyramid caucus going on. However, you write a letter, you get enough of these letters. People are, and you stop purchasing MLM products. You're like, why are you representing or defending this? This is abusive. It's defrauding people and it's predatory. And it doesn't matter how many colorful words that you use to try to pretend that this is a business. The statistics don't lie. You can look at any income disclosure statement from any MLM. And the ones that don't have the income disclosure statement, well, then get them to provide one. Do an audit. This isn't rocket science. This is easy math.
to act or react. But you put that aside for a moment and you think about, okay, how is this affecting my field? How is this affecting my direct selling business and my brand's reputation? And I think those of us on the communications committee, we hearken back to the words of the comms committee chairman, Mark Stastny from Sensi, who will very frequently bring us all back down to earth and say, let's get some perspective here. The fact of the matter is that the vast majority of direct sellers out in the country, from California to Iowa to New York to Texas to Michigan, wherever they are, aren't paying attention to this. And they know nothing about conferences or critics. And they frankly, I won't put words in Mark's mouth, but it doesn't necessarily impact their business on a day-to-day basis.
There you heard it. There's nothing to worry about. So you don't even need to be worried about not being invited to this conference, because the people that are actually the bottom of the pyramid scheme, they're not encountering anti-MLM content at all. It's not even affecting their day-to-day businesses. Just ask Rodan and Fields and Beachbody. 31 gifts, especially ask Beachbody. Ask Carl from Beachbody what his thoughts are on direct selling. It's not affecting the people involved in these scams at all. It's like he hearkened back to some guy at Sensi. This is so fucking weird. It's like they're not even in an MLM, but they're all like he's like worshiping at the altar of somebody in Sensi. Did he give him a Disney like candle warmer as a thank you gift? Thanks for being there for me, Creighton. Here you go. It's like, oh, I was really hoping I'd get this one of Mickey Mouse.
So I think
Harken back to the wise words of some guy from Sensi's like, let's bring this back into perspective. Yeah, there's nothing to see here. It's okay. It's all okay.
perspective is important as we think about the impact both to our field as well as consumers in general over activities that are taking place. But here's the difference. It can be a problem.
These are the people that is supposed to be behind the curtain of multi-level marketing. This is the association. This is it. This is what people are so impressed and intimidated by. Wow, this is awesome.
If your field is surprised, if they're caught off guard, if they're in a selling situation and they're asked about these instances or articles and they feel.
By the way, download this video. You can copy it, download it, because if I do, you never know, these fuckers might try to get my video taken down. So if it does, you can get down, react to it. At least it will be out there.
Like their back is against the wall and they didn't hear from you. So in a nutshell, there are three things that we really advise that companies do from a big picture. First, it's important that you prep your sales force and let them know what's coming. We do not recommend, let me repeat, do not recommend that you alert them about any particular conference or gathering that may be coming. We don't think that's the right idea. We think that's going to garner more attention and more clicks than it may merit. But afterwards, if you see, or after any article that may mention your company's brand name as a in a critical way, you don't want your sales force to be caught off guard, and it's important to let them know without generating additional attention.
Now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to, without generating additional attention, especially for all like the scads of people now speaking out against every multi-level marketing company under the sun? You just type it in Google, it comes up on YouTube. It's probably been featured on Life After MLM podcast. What the fuck are you going to do? You're going to warn them? Oh yeah, I know what they do now. Everybody's a hater. But the problem is the algorithm delivers anti-MLM content too. And another problem is that people know each other. They're not like you guys, these weird robots where it's like they're just detractors. We're actually like connected with people and care about them in our lives. We've seen them change and we listen to them. We've seen ourselves change. It's not safe for us to ask questions. It's not safe for us to speak out. We don't have freedom of speech. And so then you're battling that. So it's like they think that the way they're approaching this, it's like people that are in multi-level marketing will always be in multi-level marketing. They're all the sales force. It's just this static thing, this entity, and it's not. It's constantly churning. And with more and more people understanding that they've been part of a fraud, of a scam, they've been duped, they've been targeted, they've been recruited, and they've been defrauded. And many have been abused. And then they get spit out. Now suddenly, you know, they were great. They were gruntled. They were, you know, a great part of this amazing industry. So suddenly they're out. They're like, nope, you're nothing to us. You're just, you know what, complaining. You're saying no to us because it's just self-promotion. You just don't say anything because this is just a beautiful industry. It just fucking falls apart. He's delivering this like he's saying something. This is such a nothing burger.
Second, this is the time to be proactive. The best defense is really.
Oh yeah, and anytime, that's what I was going to say. Anytime somebody in multi-level marketing even addresses criticism, it's a curiosity post. It's one of the tactics I've used to reach people in Rank Makers and Mon8 and just other multi-level marketing companies. But I started with Rank Makers because that's what I began speaking out against when I exited that thing. And I knew each time I had content made about me, people would come and look at my content. So I would just hammer the stories. So then I would make way more content in my stories because I knew people that were starting to question, they could look at what information I was showing and they could do so safely because these things are cults. You can even see with the DSA, these fuckers are sending out all their like brethren around to like ask questions and stuff like that. At least in the stories, it's private. It's like kind of one-on-one. Only you and that person can converse. They can like a post. That's why a lot of the time still, I'll put all of my content that I create on Instagram, I'll put it in my stories. I just duplicate it. I just post it there. So then people that wouldn't comment publicly, they feel safe to just say something. It might not be that they're exiting. Sometimes it is. People are starting to question whether they're exiting and they just need somebody safe to kind of sound off on. So that is like open to them. This is what other anti-MLM content creators do too. So anytime I would have content made about me, I would have this influx of people from rank makers. I would just hammer the content in my stories. And then I knew I'd be planting more seeds. Start fires, plant seeds. That's all you got to do. And over time, people start thinking. It adds up. They need a lot of, it's like when we're in multi-level marketing, what is it? Takes 12 exposures before someone says yes, whatever that stupid statistic is. It's kind of similar deprogramming, except it takes a lot to kind of wake up. So any kind of being proactive or even mentioning that there's anti-MLM or there's a conference going on, you are going to drive curiosity. People want to know what's going on. We're nosy. When we're in MLM, we want to know because we're restricted. The access to information is so restricted. We're like bullied and intimidated and watched. Even if you like another person's post, or like that person left, you're going to be kicked out of the team or you're sabotaging your business because you liked it. It's like, we want to know what's going on because all of a sudden the person is gone and then we're hearing all this hyperbole. They're horrible. They're terrible. They're vibrating at a low. It's just like, oh my God, I want to know what's going on here. I want the tea. And off we go. And people in MLM are resourceful. We will find out. And that's how a lot of people have found me and other whistleblowers. Keep it up. More and more are exiting and more are starting to speak out too.
An offense, and that is putting out your own brand narrative. So I think the best way, the most effective way we've seen individual direct selling companies actually do that is with bite-sized shareable content, often video content on social media. That's highly shareable, easily digestible.
Oh my God, it's highly shareable and easily digestible. They're taking marketing advice from this fucking guy about how to combat anti-MLM. Can you imagine? It's like Mon 8. Oh, Mon 8, the truth about Mon 8. Here's our website that counteracts everybody saying that it makes your hair fall out. It's just that's what we've seen. It's great. It's shareable. Who's sharing it? Everybody else that's in MLM. It's not convincing anybody. It's not helping anybody grow their downline. Because these pieces of content are always so poorly done because these things are frauds. They're really easy to debunk too.
and helps fend off some of the forthcoming criticism. Now, we do not recommend that be about your compliance or your earnings claims policy or your products claims policy. But instead, I think we all have seen over the years that the organizations the direct selling companies that seem to avoid criticism are the ones the
people don't know about yet. Or the ones that deny that they're multi-level marketing companies or the ones that are so litigious, they just sue anybody. They sue everybody and anybody. And then that makes them a totally legitimate direct selling channel. Although that same activity is guaranteeing that people are refusing to purchase their products from that company because it's not worth it. They see somebody that is speaking out against that particular company and they're like, that person got sued by this company? Why? For a video? Are you kidding me? No fucking way do I want to buy your product. I don't care if it's the best skin moisturizer. I don't care if the laundry soap is clean and you don't have any toxic ingredients. It's not worth it for me. I don't want to have a potential problem, and then get sued by your company. I don't have to worry about that with Amazon. I can leave a negative review and I'm not going to get harassed by everybody in your MLM. I don't want anything to do. It's not worth it. There's so many other products out there that I can purchase. It's kind of like that's what happens. That's why your business isn't growing this year. If you're in a multi-level marketing company and they've sued somebody, especially an anti-MLM content creator, you can thank your company for that.
Products transcend the direct selling brand. In other words, consumers know those products as one of America's best loving brands and don't necessarily.
No, they don't. It's not. Most people don't even know they exist because it's not about the products. This is about the business opportunity. I just made a video about Fix. You have Terry Camp going on about there. It's just like he did 6 months, he did nothing, but he just made sure he had that 50 PV, regardless of whether he needed the product or not. The whole goal was to get payment for like compensation for recruitment. He needed to maintain that PV in order to get paid. That was the sole motivation for that. These products there is no outside market for them, because the retail prices are usually so high that the only way to buy them is, guess what, to become a distributor. Multi-level marketing companies make it as difficult as possible to actually buy a product. They put so many barriers in the way for somebody just to buy a product. They say it's just about the product. No, it's not. It's so hard to just buy a product. You can't buy a product. It's hidden. And then you have to like go through this whole ordeal of listening to the opportunity and then just signing up for the discount. I don't want to sign up for a discount. I just want to buy a product. You can't buy a product in multi-level marketing. These things are just dying on their own, you know.
Really think of that brand only as a direct seller. So are there stories about your R&D department, the science behind your products, or even your executive team members from a profile perspective? Maybe they've come from another company. Maybe they come from another brand that.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Stuart McMillan. Yeah, let's turn Mon 8 around. Well, you know, he came from the Ponzi scheme called Telex Free, 2014. Later that year, he was appointed the president of Mon 8. Oh, before that, he was the president of Arbonne Canada. That'll really whip all the sales force into shape and just have all these people want to sign up with your MLM. Talk about all these people that have been like circulating in MLM over the years. It's the same crew. I'm still new at speaking out, and even I recognize some of these people. It's like, holy fuck, they've been at it all their lives, you know? They just keep going and going and going.
It is highly reputable in the consumer space, and it's worth doing.
In the consumer space, highly reputable in the consumer space. Nobody knows who they are. It's only people in multi-level marketing that endorse them.
Feature story on them, or profile, a video, a short video that lets your sales force share it. Third, and finally, I think this is the time, and I think Brian would agree with me, to shore up your friends. If you've got members of Congress who know you and love you, this is the time to make sure they know how many corporate employees you have, what your presence is, if you have a manufacturing facility, how many SKUs you have, how many direct sellers you have by zip code. You know, this is the time. It's always important to make friends while times are good, as Michael Lunsford from Mary Kay always says. And
oh my God.
Them. So this is the time to do that. With that, let me turn it back to Ginger Greenberg, who's got some of the specific messaging, very high level, that we've put together that may be of use really in an FAQ or a Q&A format that the Direct Selling Association will provide.
I think this guy fancies himself as an intellectual, if you will. Don't you agree?
Provide to member companies that could be useful if you get questions from your field. Ginger, let me turn it back to you.
Before you do that, Ginger, let me.
Oh my God, Ginger's going to give us high level stuff. Joe's got to talk about how he wasn't invited to the conference again.
Let me ask you both a question, actually. So take yourself off mute if you would. I think what you just described is great. Great, and I really appreciate that counsel and that advice. So what we see here really, though, is this witch's brew, right? It almost becomes impossible to distinguish between what the press is saying and what the policymakers saying and what's going on social media, particularly in social media. Social media feeds the press feeds the social media, and it's not only witch's brew, it's a vicious circle. And we tend to see, and then that ultimately ends up in policy. But you mentioned earlier, Ginger, the TikTok ban that is in place or been announced in place, and that does have that relates back to this because it's born of social media concerns. Obviously, it's a social media company as well as bad press, and it does reflect itself immediately in the field, unlike some of the just standalone discussions and pot shots that the critics might take.
Pot shots. Oh, Jesus Christ. Get over yourself. This is so stupid. I can't. Well, he's going to be retiring anyway. Fucking good riddance. Oh, who'll be the next stand-up person to take his place? He'll be another like stalwart person of integrity, thumping his chest about how the DSA is so good. Oh my God. This is so embarrassing.
The field is
I'm like embarrassed for them.
Using Facebook and TikTok or WhatsApp, and those applications suddenly limit or prohibit their individual activity as direct sellers. it has an impact on their business, obviously, right? So it is this witch's brew that we have to be concerned about. Ginger.
Ginger, do you want to react first?
Yeah, please.
By all means, Creighton, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to yield to you. I think in all candor, Joe, the brass tacks.
Oh my God, this guy is so. It's like he is a caricature of himself. This looks like I'm watching a show about multi-level marketing, like it's an actual sitcom. You know, I yield to you the candor forthcoming.
Comes down to how does the field feel like, oh, because TikTok won't take my messages, my business is hurt in some way. How many CEOs on this call have heard from their field members who are angry that they can no longer communicate by TikTok? I don't know. Anecdotally, what we're
Well, then why are you asking the question if you don't know? And I'll guarantee the CEOs don't know because they're fucking psychopaths. They're not talking to their field, or they have weird shit going on in their inner circles too. And you have like the people that are the very top of the pyramid schemes that are so enamored by their CEO giving them a tour of the facility that they'll say and do anything. The CEOs don't have a clue what the hell is going on and they don't care. But we do. We know exactly what's going on because we've been there. And we expose the truth. And we're there for people as they leave, waking up and exiting, and support them and help amplify their voices as they start to speak out too.
hearing right now is not many, that on a day-to-day basis, it's not impacting them.
So you have no idea. You haven't talked to any CEOs and you're like anecdotally. Anecdotally means you don't have a clue. You're just talking. He's like a talking head of MLM. It would be like they'd have their own little news show. It's like, woo, 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 DSA news with, person, Joe Mariano. And he's like, he's got a cigar, his shirt's unbuttoned. He's already getting like upset that he wasn't invited to the conference. And you have a Creighton Webb and he's like, good evening. Tonight at 6 p.m., we have a conference that we haven't been invited to. I yield to you, Ginger.
But I think this goes back to my original point, which is the credibility of the criticism. And as
nobody's credible, there's no criticism that's credible. You have nothing to worry about here. Just keep going. It's going to be awesome.
is I said in our last webinar when we talked specifically about TikTok, TikTok is a darling of the media. I mean, they're getting their fair amount of criticism as well, but they are highly covered and everyone is interested in it. So what you have is a very interesting, high-profile social media platform that, in essence, is banned direct selling messages. And that then I will call these, if the reputation of direct selling, you've heard me say it before, is an iceberg, it's all these little BBs that fire against our iceberg. And how many does it take before the reputation iceberg melts? Well,
I guess we're seeing that play out right now.
From a legislative perspective,
people like me have a fucking bazooka. Blow the hell out of that iceberg.
Brian Bennett, you tell me, from a CEO perspective, all of you out there,
we blow on it and we take a pee on it too. The warmth just like starts melting it. It's just this cumulative attack on the iceberg. It started with BB guns and now it's just game on. Now climate change is helping it melt too. You guys are hooped.
You tell me, are you hearing from your field saying we can't sell anymore? I'm willing to bet you are not. So then the question becomes,
well, you can see his research is really informed. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. I wonder how much he gets paid.
Can we just slack this off and say, oh, every industry has its critics? No, I don't think we can. I think we have to take this seriously, but we also have to keep it in perspective and remind ourselves that, in fact, every reputable, high-profile, long-standing, successful industry and channel has highly paid critics that are going
highly paid critics. You can't make this shit up. Oh my God. All of the people. So let's take Mon 8 because that one's fresh in my mind. 96.91% of participants in Mon 8 Canada, according to their 2022 income disclosure statement, made an average of $240 a year gross before expenses. All of those people, if If you take any of them that are speaking out against Mon 8, they're highly paid critics. Highly paid critics. Oh my God. This is so awesome. This is all they have. Isn't this? It's almost like it's anticlimactic to me. This is it. This is the man behind the curtain. There's probably more men behind more curtains, you know, but this is one of them. This is the DSA. This is what they've got. It's the highly paid critics. It doesn't matter if somebody's highly paid or zero paid. A pyramid scheme is a pyramid scheme. It doesn't matter if somebody pointing out that the pyramid scheme is a construction worker, a bus driver, or a sex worker. It's still a pyramid scheme. It doesn't matter if you joined the pyramid scheme as a customer or as an independent business owner. It's still a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme is a pyramid scheme, and the cheese stands alone.
After
And you're not invited to the party. You're not invited to the conference.
them and trying to get the media's attention on a daily basis. So I think it's a balancing act. Ginger?
No, you're absolutely right, Creighton. And for the first time, I think, in this industry, we're looking at these critics that have taken the traditional tactics of reaching out to media and using their megaphone to really share what they have to say and affect the reputation of the industry in a negative way. And that's why we've gone back really to the basics of what we need to do to prepare the field for.
Each time they insult a survivor of abuse for speaking out, they're taking their own big BB gun and they're shooting their own iceberg. That's what's going on here. That's all they're doing. Because the thing is that they're acting like it's like people, the sales force is this stable thing, that it doesn't churn and people don't leave. So you have people, you've made these connections over the years, sometimes in multiple multi-level marketing companies, sometimes over multiple years, like decades even. People leave, those connections are there. And people want to be like, well, you've left and you've begun speaking out and you're showing me evidence. I can't look away from this. This is reality. And then you have somebody like Ginger saying it's like all these just detractors, insulting people that you know, like, and trust. People that you love. And then you have her, it's like, well, who the fuck are you? What job do you have again? How much are you getting paid? Do you work at the DSA, the DSEF? What is it that you do? And how much do you get paid? Let's turn it at, what are your motivations here for going forward? Because I see what happens with people that are speaking out, getting harassed. I see them, I'm like, these people that were my friends are behaving like monsters. Harassing them, following them back to different social media profiles, continuing the harassment. This doesn't add up. So it's like, yeah, keep saying that. This is so awesome.
General responses when they are asked about the industry in a negative way. So
Ginger, before you do that, let me interrupt you again. I'm sorry to do that.
Imagine recruiting somebody into your MLM and say, this is going to explain everything. And then they stumble across this and they're like, oh my God, this is an embarrassment. This is the industry. This is how they counter criticism. No, thanks. They wouldn't even get that far. It's just not worth it. Participation in MLM is so fucking complicated. There's no point. You just want to get a shampoo, buy a shampoo from Amazon. Ask your hairdresser for some help. It's not worth it. All of this is MLM as well. This is what you're unknowingly like contributing to and participating in when you purchase an MLM product.
But it's related to where you're going. Question about, will we be sending out some of this information in written form? Your ideas specifically, Creighton. So yes, I think in the context of the messaging that you'll see and hear from us as options, at least, you will be seeing that. Additionally, just a quick recap of who the attendees of the seminar. I think this question means who are the participants in the seminar. They include policymakers, former policymakers, industry critics, members of the press, a number of members of the press, various types of press, the Huffington Post and others that were described earlier. The potential outcome of the meeting is what we're talking about. Of course, we won't know till afterwards, and we'll have to see. But we're concerned about the implications on a longer term basis in terms of industry reputation. It's another one of those BBs. Maybe this is more than a few BBs in this one, Creighton, but it's sort of, again, part of that barrage. So Creighton, Ginger, go ahead. I've interrupted you a couple times now.
Sure, that's That's fine. I think I'll back up a little bit. We'll have different layers of communication. So one specifically for the companies, member companies to use in response to press inquiries that you may receive. And then also a layer of communication that member companies can use for to communicate with their field, and recommendations for their field to use when they receive specific questions about this event, or really any event or any instance that has to deal with a negative question about the industry, or just a general inquiry about the industry. So very much one of the questions that we see all of the time from media are, does anyone make money in direct selling? Well, yes, they do. And we provided
Just look at the income disclosure statement for month 8 in 2022 in Canada. 96.91% earned an average of $240 gross before earnings, before expenses. Yeah, they do. It's less than a fraction of a percent. And they earn it at the expense of the people below them. I don't even know why journalists are even asking the Direct Selling Association anything. That's changing. There are journalists. There are more and more journalists out there exposing these things for what they are. And this has just happened. This is like a snowball, like rolling down the mountain, the avalanche, the iceberg, the BB guns. It's not BB guns anymore.
Very, specific comment that's direct and speaks to the moderate, modest supplemental income that
there isn't modest supplemental income, as is evidenced by Lois Griesman's most recent letter in just last year, 2024, to the DSSRC and the DSA. You can't even make income claims because people aren't even making any money. So saying it's like you can make modest or supplemental income is deceiving. Oh, times are changing faster than I thought.
independent contractors make through the direct selling industry. So there are questions that you can use with your.
How much do you get paid, Ginger? What's your role? Are you on salary? Who pays you?
Field and FAQ, some talking points that they can use, and also some background on what the DSA has done over the past, I would say, 3 to 5 years when it comes to consumer protection. What's
consumer protection? It's defrauded the public. That's what the DSA has done. It continues to. This thing needs to sink too.
How that's been advanced, how specific you are with the DSSRC and the creation and funding of that organization, and also an updated DSSRC document that we worked on with Brian and his group to show what action the DSSRC has done with direct selling companies in the United States, and how effective that has been to really monitor and take action within the.
So let me ask you a question, if I can, Ginger, because that positioning seems.
Hey, honestly, I can't stand any of these people, but the constant interruption of Ginger by Joe is really irritating me. Do you notice this? Like, first it was Creighton, and then it's Joe. Like, they will not let her stop. Like, I'm interrupting because I'm doing commentary. This is what I do. I add way too much commentary. This is just my style. But Joe, like, let her speak. For God's sakes, Joe. We know that you haven't been invited to this conference.
A little bit at odds. And I want you both to clarify with what Creighton was talking about a few minutes ago about what individual companies can do and not to get out there in terms of this proactive kind of activity and talk about, your earnings claim statement or things like that. Can you both clarify that for me?
Sure. So in terms of being proactive with your field and providing the information, is that what you're asking?
Well, Creighton had said very precisely that he didn't suggest that you go out and, start talking to people about earnings claims and what you're doing right and the compliance program that you have. And yet
and you wonder why multi-level marketing participants are the way they are too. So you have these people now are advising multi-level marketing CEOs who then dispense this invaluable information to the tops of the pyramid scheme, maybe on a whole company-wide call, and it all filters down to somebody trying to recruit you into Make Wellness or any MLM. And they're trying to be like, well, no, actually the DSA, they don't even know what the DSA or DSSRC is, and they're going to be the sales force. The sales force in 2021, I was part of that sales force. 2025, I'm not. I'm speaking out. I was speaking out at the end of 2021. showing what I was given, the sales for the information I was given to explain away things like Mon 8, like the truth about Mon 8.
Your talking points actually do address some of those issues. So that's what I want clarified.
Sure, you're exactly right, Joe. These are reactive statements, and these are things that should be shared in a conversation or a phone call, and not necessarily a written statement when it comes to really explaining earning claims and what the DSRC has done. So you're right, those are not proactive written statements. We do have some proactive written statements that you can use with your field and in response to any press inquiry.
Scripts, the DSA is giving these MLM companies scripts to use when somebody asks them, do people make money at this? Just send them this statement out. Oh my God. If you ask them if they're going to make money, you can ask them anything. They're going to lie right through their teeth because that's what they do, because these things are frauds. Is it a surprise?
That you may have. Obviously, those are reactive, but proactively, those nuggets that Creighton mentioned are talking about your brand, talking about the science behind your brand. Those are specific things for you, and we'll provide some commentary and feedback on that as well.
Yeah, let me parse further. Let me parse clarification
Oh
further.
my God, he's going to parse further. It's too much, Creighton. You're trying too hard. If I were to invite one person, I'd pick Creighton. I don't want him to parse further.
Because my first point was prepare your field. And what we mean by prepare your field is make sure that they know the questions that could be coming to them. And
is this a pyramid scheme? Or maybe were you the people that gave rank makers advice saying, LOL, a pyramid scheme, LOL? No, it's an octagon. Mine's more shaped like an octagon, LOL. Let me know when you're serious about making money. Or I'm not a criminal mastermind, LOL, like an inordinate amount of LOLs. Were you the ones behind that genius response? Or was that just something different? Oh my God.
give them good, solid answers. So when someone says, can you really make any money doing this? We're going to give you a good answer. And by the way, one of the things
well, what's your answer? Nobody says, can you really make any money at that? People are like, you don't make money at this. You're in a pyramid scheme. Nobody's asking if you can make money because people know that you can't. But I mean, it's just, they're so, I can't believe that this is it. It's just so loosely held together. I thought it was going to be this like powerful behemoth, this pyramid scheme lobby. Like I'm like, they're hopeless and hapless. I guess this is just it. Every time I think, I get sucked in sometimes when they're edifying someone. I'm like, wow. Unbeknownst to me, parsing further, I just feel impressed by the person that they introduce. And then I'm always so let down and I realize I've been fooled again. I've been taken in by the edification. And so I've had this thing, it's like the DSA, and it's like, this is the DSA. This is it. It's just pathetic.
we recommend saying is direct selling isn't for everybody. You know, you just like any business.
You have to work. And if it doesn't work for you, then you didn't work hard enough. Don't worry about the income disclosure statement. It's not for everybody. You just didn't try hard enough.
It takes a lot of hard work and it depends on what your goals are. So you're going to see that in the messaging. That's not proactive outreach. That's not which with that we get to number 2, my second point, which is short, bite-sized social media content.
I'd love to see him come up with short, bite-sized social media content. They can't. DSA is so stupid. You should see the DSA Canada. They tried to make some content. It's so pathetic. If you've looked at the DSA Canada, the president, Peter Maddox, he's actually presented at the Standing Committee on the Status of Women. I've made a few videos on this. It's such a joke. It's even more of a joke of this than the DSA in the US, if you can believe it. It's so pathetic. And yet they have the ear of members of parliament. You know, they just sat there and they're taking notes like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. This is just nuts.
Typically by video that the company is putting out on its social channels. Let's be frank.
You can't outproduce anti-MLM content creators. We've got it. We got it licked. We have too much of a presence now on every social media platform. And then people that that aren't making content, they're making comments, and then they're reporting content that is made by by multi-level marketing participants, especially on TikTok when they're trying to recruit people and they shouldn't be. It doesn't matter how effective a bite-sized piece is from your MLM company. You have one YouTube video, it's going to drown out all that nonsense. You look like a joke because you're not actually addressing the reality of your situation. You're not addressing what you are, which is a fraud, which, I mean, why would you? You just have to say, oh, these people are motivated. We don't believe in freedom of expression at all. We don't believe in freedom of speech. Anybody that says anything against us, we're going to sue them, just like Scientology. We're going to infiltrate and we're going to get intel. We're going to gather intelligence. Or we're just going to call them, we're going to insult them. All of them are motivated to get like financial gain. That totally makes sense. That's going to go over well. Put that over in like a 15-second TikTok. Oh, it's going to go viral and it's going to quell any kind of disturbances from your sales field, you know? It's so fucking dumb.
Vast majority of your followers are your field. It is highly shareable content. And it's
shared with who? Nobody's going to see it. Everybody looking outside of it is going to be like, this is such a cult. This is so stupid. This is their response to criticism. Everybody in the company is going to think it's so profound and meaningful. That's all it's going to be shared to. It's just going to help them keep in the cult longer. But outside, it's not going to work to recruit people.
Talking about other things that enhance the reputation of your company, the science behind your products, the folks in the white coats in the R&D lab, the manufacturing facility, the executive team, etc. Two totally different things.
Hey, Joe, could I just hop in here for a minute since my name has been implied and there's some things going on in the chat?
All in good ways. All in good ways.
Well, I was going to agree with you, Creighton. So definitely in good ways. Very similar to what you were saying about, distributors and sales force. They don't know in California and Iowa and Michigan, they don't know what's going on many of the times. You don't want to bring a negative to their attention as well. That translates exactly to Capitol Hill, They're in Zoom to Zoom, back to back every day, meetings every day. They'll consume some media, but not always. But many times you have to bring even legislation to their attention. There's thousands of bills introduced. They don't know about things many times unless it's brought to their attention specifically. So that's not to say we're not going to do anything at all. If we
write your senator, write your, in Canada, write your member of parliament. If you're in the States, write your congressman, like state attorney general, contact them. They don't know. It could just be, and they could, it's worth a shot,
foresee this gains traction. That's certainly when we're going to react. But we also don't want to bring a negative to their attention, because if we do, that's almost worse than just
having a victim come forward and just, it doesn't need to be like this profound, the why that makes you cry. You could just be like, I have seen what these do to people. All of their income disclosure statements show that this is a scam. MLM is fraud. Why are they allowed to operate in the United States as well? Why does the government appear to pay like more attention to somebody saying, well, look at how many SKUs I have. Look at my inventory. Look at my manufacturing plant. You're going to sacrifice all these jobs. The only reason those jobs exist is because they're defrauding the most vulnerable people in our country. So whatever the perceived benefit is of having all these manufacturing jobs, it's on the backs and at the expense of the most vulnerable people who are in pain, chronic pain, people who have hardly any money, financially vulnerable, single moms, veterans, name a category. People having mental breakdowns, like that Monate participant likes to target those. That's who's paying for those products. They outnumber the potential benefits. There is no benefit. This is a loss. Why aren't you paying attention to this? I am one of many. I am one of millions of people speaking out against multi-level marketing. It's worth it. Get your thoughts down. A lot of people that have been in multi-level marketing, we're good at journaling, good at saying stuff. If writing is your thing, fire off some letters. You got nothing to lose, We were good, especially if you're good at prospecting. You could fire some off each day.
letting a lie. So.
And Joe, one last comment. There's a
God.
comment in the chat that says trying to talk truth to our detractors is basically not possible. Our detractors are not the audience. And that is really important that we remember that. This is not about convincing them to see the light and come to the good side and to understand. This is not, our audience are the folks that Brian works with.
Literally cannot make this shit up.
And Adolfo on Capitol Hill. And our audience always is your field, your potential field members, your employees, and your end consumers. And oftentimes in that order. So that is really important here to remember. That's who we're trying to reach and respond to.
Bring them to the light, whatever.
Yeah, we're running short on time. So Ginger,
Joe's like so messed up. He's so so upset he wasn't invited to this conference. It's like he's sinking lower and lower in his seat. He probably dozed off there. He always rouses when it's Ginger's time to speak so he can interrupt her.
I don't want to give short shrift to the talking points or the arguments, but we will be providing those to everyone in short order so that you are prepared as necessary and appropriate. Another one of the comments or questions was, somehow motivating the members of Congress to get involved in this. And again, we don't want to elevate this certainly ahead of time any more than is necessary. And Brian just described one of the reasons why. And even with our academics, on their own, they're quite interested in this. As you know, I say our academics, I mean the academic fellows who are interested in the industry. And
no, you meant our academics. You described it accurately.
Are keenly interested, in fact, because they're purveyors of truth and rational analysis.
Purveyors of truth. It's like the cult grows. Can you imagine? They're talking about MLM like this. Purveyors of truth.
But again, rather than weighing in,
we're not at all like QAnon.
Ahead of time, and knowing that those detractors that we were just mentioning will use any of that for their purposes. This seminar is going forward, and we are not going to change the substance of the seminar. But afterwards, certainly, if there is a need to respond and address any misinformation and issues that arise,
you're going to release it to people that nobody reads and nobody cares. It's just going to be your ever diminishing circle of people that are involved in this. It's like they read too much Napoleon Hill. There's the purveyors of truth versus the detractors.
It will be there. John Weber, if you're still on, I know you had to switch devices there for a moment. If you could reiterate when you get the chance the name of the Amway distributor, perhaps you have it, Brian.
I actually put it, yeah, Joe, I responded in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Ginger, please continue. And if you have any questions, please.
He's kicking Ginger around like a soccer ball.
Pass them on and I'll share them with the panelists.
Joe, we had another question here.
Oh my God, interrupting Ginger again. What does it matter with you?
Q&A. Do you want me to?
Sure, go ahead. Great.
Okay. The question, Meredith, thank you. She says, do you recommend when you say prep your sales force and field that companies only approach a higher level field leader versus everybody? And the short answer, you'll love this, typical PR person. It depends, right? And here's what I mean by that. I think you have to gauge how widespread the news is. Because again, you don't want to inadvertently alarm or scare your.
It's just a nothing burger of a response to, well, it just depends. Do we talk to people just at the top of the pyramid scheme and then they can spread this information to their downline and just like talk about everybody? Well, it really depends. You just got to gauge. Well, how do we gauge? Well, you have to have this, like, he just doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. This is like an MLM. Is he like an MLM consultant? I wonder how much money he gets paid.
Salesforce. So let me give you an example. I think one of the best tactics that I really like, and again, you can use this analogy and broaden it. When you find out from three of your field members that they're getting phone calls from a reporter, nosing around.
A reporter nosing around. A reporter asking questions. Oh, they're just all lazy. This one's nosing around. I wonder if that's what Young Living said about me. Here's somebody nosing around, sending me an email. They were quick to respond, though.
That is a great time.
Keep insulting everyone. Keep it up. Because what is accepted, now, as more and more people leave multi-level marketing, they look back and they're like, my God, how did I not see this?
To put out a very general, all Salesforce message that says, many of you have relationships with members of the media. We know that. And from time to time, you may get a phone call from a member of the news media asking about your brand name business. We would ask that before you respond to a reporter, please call our corporate communications department, who will guide you through the process. So what that does is and then what you do is you send that out every quarter. So it doesn't look like you're just responding to the media inquiry. You have a steady cadence of a reminder to your sales force. I think it's important to do this with the FAQs that we're going to share with you through the DSA. They are questions that come up all the time. Can you really make any money? Is it a pyramid scheme? On and on and on. So I think a regular cadence so that your sales force gets used to hearing from you about best practices and the messages that you want them to convey in a sales situation, but not in a sales transaction about the model.
Great insight there. Last couple moments here, and we might go a little bit beyond the hour. So if everybody can stick with us for a few minutes, you might get some value out of it. Anticipated next steps and DSA responses. We've touched on a number of these. Obviously, a lot of our response is going to be determined by the substance that we hear during the conference. We can postulate as to what we're going to hear, but
oh my God, the postulation and the parsing. It's like they've all learned new words this week and they're cramming it into everything that they say to sound intelligent. Like, did you see I used that word correctly? Oh yeah, I got a one up you.
actually hear it. We will be sharing, as Brian said, the information about the meeting with the membership so that you can evaluate it. We will then be reacting to some of the policymakers and some of the press who are involved with this activity to make sure that they understand there is another side of the story, that the association is not just available, but eager to share our perspective and the information and statistics. It should be noted that the organizer of the meeting has recently tweeted out that direct selling in the United States last year did not even keep up with inflation. I don't know where he gets that number, but
maybe, I don't know, maybe because it's actually accurate information. Boy, he is pressed. He is upset that he wasn't invited. He cannot stop taking digs at Bill Keep. This is amazing.
All of you know from your own experience and our data, which is still being collected for 2020, give the lie to that.
It's better than ever. Just ask Beachbody and Rodan and Fields now, just a few years later.
Suggest that just the opposite.
Everything is good. It's all good.
In fact, that we did quite well, remarkably well. So in any case, that kind of pronouncement or assertion that's made during the meeting is the kind of thing that we will respond to. Of course, we will.
They're going to have another whiny Zoom call meeting. Like, this is almost over and they've really talked about nothing. They've just complained. They just complain.
Pronouncement or assertion that's made during the meeting is the kind of thing that we will respond to. Of course, we will then engage in whatever outreach is necessary if this does manifest itself on Capitol Hill or in the States, or for that matter, in some of the countries that Adolfo mentioned that are going to be participating in this. We'll have interaction with them, working with our World Federation and other international DSA.
The World Federation of Direct Selling. Oh yeah, I wonder what this lot is like. If they're anything like this.
Say colleagues. And indeed, I think one of our observers from France already noted that in France, the issue of MLM has not been any in any of the recent EU directives or proposals, and perhaps won't be. We'll see. And in any case, there have been actions in some of those markets that we are very attentive to, and we'll have to see how this manifests itself. I think you agree with that, Adolfo, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah, just not going to belabor it, but just very briefly, just to clarify, and I'm glad Laura Alexander as well is on from the European Union from the broader perspective. This conference will necessarily touch on social media, the use of social media, alleged exploitation by direct sellers of social media and so forth. And that is very much on the radar screen in Europe and elsewhere. And lastly, anything that happens here, that's why I think there's an international invitation extended, generally is followed very closely and ultimately influences regulators overseas.
Absolutely. So other questions that we might be able to address for everyone before we adjourn for the day? I think as you're thinking about that, again, it will be interesting. I've mentioned earlier the paper that has been written by our academic fellows in response to the alchemy of a pyramid scheme. Some of you may have seen descriptions of that in our direct selling.
And they're probably a joke. They're a laughing stock too. People just put up with them like, oh my God, this one's on tenure. We can't get rid of them. They've made a paper. I wonder what this like retaliation paper of defending MLM pyramid schemes, when you could have somebody in grade 3 debunk it. Be like, yeah, it's an endless chain recruitment scam.
Journal and otherwise. That paper, we anticipate that some of our academics will have that published formally at some point in the future.
Oh my God.
It's already been preliminarily published, and it's a great resource, and I commend it to your attention for further use. So we'll see what developments take place there. Additionally, while not immediately related to this, the status of direct selling in the marketplace is an important aspect of the American economy, and whether it's being criticized, attacked, regulated, or promoted on the one side as related to pyramid schemes and the like, we also have the independent contractor status of our sales force. And Brian, you and John are going to be having a webinar on some important developments there at the federal and state level, correct?
Yep, 1 p.m. tomorrow. And if you haven't received a promo, you should this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So I hope everyone can join us tomorrow at 1 Eastern. And
finally, our communications committee is meeting, I believe, on Friday, concurrently with the meeting that we're talking about. We'll be discussing this as well as many other issues, and we'll continue to inform the membership. If you have any questions, observations, do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. My email is joe@dsa.org. I'd be happy to answer the questions, discuss this, get your input and counsel, and put you in touch with any other resources that you need to have. I know that Creighton and Ginger are always available, not only to work with us at the association, but you have direct selling clients within the membership and otherwise. And you are an invaluable resource to those companies and to us. And feel free to contact Creighton and Ginger and their team. How many people do you have working at Sunway?
So now it's over 40 folks.
40 people.
Yeah.
So lest you think that it's just these two folks who are the base for direct selling, there is really a remarkable team of individuals there. So Gary, thank you for your assistance and giving us the perspective of the fellows. And again, we appreciate everybody's attention, and we'll look forward to continuing discussions on this and other issues of relevance to our great business model. Please take care. On behalf of the Direct Selling Association, continue to prosper and stay healthy, and we'll be in touch.
Live long and prosper. You thought that these multi-level marketing Zoom calls that were like interminably long, that went on and on about nothing, where everybody's butt hurt and they're just insulting everybody that is outside multi-level marketing. You thought this was just going on in multi-level marketing companies and just like throughout the pyramid schemes. No. This is also going on in these other organizations. So this, I guess, it lobbies on behalf of Amway, of multi-level marketing companies. This is what they've got. This is the best of the best. This is their communication, their PR. This is the advice that they're being given. This is like they're working on behalf of multi-level marketing companies. Oh, don't worry, we got you. There's this conference, and we are so terrified and butthurt that we weren't invited to. We're going to have this whole Zoom call that just complains that we weren't invited, and then we're trying to like send out little tentacles to try to figure out information, and then we're going to report back about a conference. Like, they're so terrified that regulation is going to change. They're threatened, and it's great to see. This was a doozy. It was really long, and thank you so much for watching it. If you've managed to, this is if for the people that really like the long form content, this one's for you. I learned something new today. I learned more about this DSA and the DSEF. I've only learned like I only had kind of a bit of knowledge about it. I haven't seen like the inner workings. So seeing this Zoom call, it was pretty telling. And I think the biggest thing for me is not to have to know who's connected with who. Is relationships can start and they can end really fast, especially nowadays and especially on social media. You have one video go viral, it gets attention, and action can happen like that. Do regulations change that quickly? Of course not. Are things going to like take time to change with multi-level marketing? Absolutely. And at the same time, you can notice how things have changed. I guess if this was done in 2021 compared to now at the beginning of 2025, it's a completely different landscape. You know how many people were too terrified to even just say publicly that MLMs are pyramid schemes? And just to say that, it was always so scary. You can't say those words together. There's this fear. Just even if you've never purchased MLM products, people would be too afraid to say it. Now it's common. It's more common anyway. And more people leaving multi-level marketing companies. If they're not making content, they're supporting other creators in the comments saying, yeah, this was my experience too. They're in the background helping others exit. A lot is going on in the background that people don't even see. People collecting information to give to anti-MLM content creators. People writing their elected officials. I wonder what 2025 will bring. MLM is fraud. MLM is legalized fraud. Hope to see that change. And seeing what the DSA is actually about, or this DSEF, they're a lot weaker than I ever could have hoped to imagine. I love the analogy of the iceberg with the BB guns. It's sinking. They just do it to themselves, though. It's like that Radiohead song. You do it to yourself, you do, and that's why it really hurts. You don't even need detractors. They just have to stand on their own because they fuck over everybody and they insult everyone while they're doing it. They take your money, they abuse you, they lie about it, they gaslight, and they just keep on going. And they call out anybody pointing out that what they're doing is fraud, just a detractor motivated, like a highly paid. It's like they're stuck in like this weird time where they got away with this. They never had, it's like before social media. They're stuck in that time where they could repeat these talking points and everybody just believed it. That's quickly eroded. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.